We're doing it's one of these streams where Casey's gotta fucking fix his phone every 3 seconds because the angle's weird. What's up, everybody? It's me. Am I homeless? I slept. It's not voices in my head. It's methodical. Let me find the right word. It's too intelligent. And it's more like, okay, I guess there's no way to prove it. But the fact that the animals and the birds outside will respond to what I feel is something that eyes can't see. So when I wake up and for a little bit I can kind of get back to how I was when I was a kid. But I always had this stuff as a kid. There were times, like little pockets of time, where I would be focused and I would have a strong kind of, it was something I created. I think everybody lives in their own delusional, personal little world when they kind of tune out the stuff they don't like. So I'd be able to get into that where I would just decide I didn't want to have these things, or I would, over time with the gym and sunlight and taking care of myself, I would feel what's probably some type of spiritual parasite, and I would be able to just say no, and then I would keep going with that. But eventually it does dissolve and you're back to normal life, which for me, normal life is being able to see somebody walking down the street and I can automatically tell that there's some type of spiritual parasite down the side of their head attached to their neck like this, pushing them forward and making them feel like they have to be above everybody else. How many times do you see people walking down the street and then they put their head up like this, like they're better? It's usually old women in Vermont. It's like the skinny liberal women that have to like pop their head out like this. And I know they're going to do that because I can see before they even do that there's something stuck on them, so that when people, I'll see it. And for me, it's like over time it got worse, where I would be at peace and thinking normally and things are good. But then from PTSD and trauma, when I wake up and I'm good for a little bit, it would be the crows. Usually the crows freak out. As soon as I'm awake, they freak out. Even if I'm not moving and I'm just laying there, they would freak out. But at times at like 1 in the morning, like tonight, where there's no crows around and it's raining, so there's no birds, I got a clear view of what was going on, where it's bigger than people think, because I think we're very small in the grand scheme of things. I'll tell you that the aliens that I talk about look like insects and praying mantis. They look like disgusting sea monsters. They look like blue with crystals for eyebrows and a bunch of eyes. They look like black shadows, dark matter, and they look like grays, and then dragons, and then or reptilians, or I'm not totally sure what those things are, but there's ones that look like giant dragons or T-Rexes, and I've only ever seen their head. And the problem with, like, I would completely accept that I have schizophrenia if there were no environmental factors in response to the same anomalies that I witnessed. Like, I was laying in bed in 2020, maybe 2021 because I was alone, and the energy of the apartment got really stale, and then a piercing frequency into the top, like the roof of my apartment, and then it's a massive fucking spiritual dragon, red with white energy around it, and it's coming in and it wants to hurt me, and it's like judging me. That's schizophrenic, right? But my cat burst. I have sleep paralysis during that. My cat bursts through, sits on my chest, looks up at it, and starts, and I can literally see, because I had been alone for so long, I could clearly see. You know, I'd know when my cat was hungry. I'd know when my cat was sad. You know, it's fucking weird, but it happened. It literally happened. My cat's fucking speaking in tongues to this, looked like a dragon to me. And then I can see what my cat is doing is it's like transmitting or almost sharing all the good things I did. He was vouching for me. So then the dragon leaves. Also, 2023, I was hooking up with a yoga instructor. She was bad as hell. And the Burlington waterfront. And I'm staying at her house. And she had a lot of Nepali neighbors that had taught her something where she had this altar in her living room, and then she would get on her knees and do this, like, not really a prayer, but she would do something spiritual. And she said it really helped her in life. And I was like, okay, it's Vermont. You know, she's bad. She's bad as hell. But a few days after being there, the vibe changes. It gets weird again. And I know when it's just weird, like how the back rooms feels, where reality gets kind of liminal and people start to act really weird. She immediately, as soon as everything got weird, she went right to the altar, knelt down, started to do the thing. She's like whisper chanting. I see a massive dragon spirit attached to the side of the building, and then it's extending the spiritual tubules in and connecting to whoever it can. And me, being not schizophrenic, but experiencing that, I'm going, what the fuck is this? I'm not going, wah! I'm going, I don't want to deal with this shit. Let me put this back up. I'm going, I don't want to deal with it. I've been through so much shit. I didn't even read it. I didn't even read what she said. But she acknowledges that. She doesn't outright call it a dragon, but she starts to, like, I call it the cackle, where there's a dark entity that gets into people that I see pretty much every day in my life now. I think it's gotten much worse or much more obvious, and I think everybody is kind of on that same type of time. But where it's like I see it, literally see it attach, pump information, and then the person goes like, I see that so much in my life. It almost makes me think that, like, that's why they made the laugh tracks on the sitcoms, because that was such like a weird thing, so that they had to condition people to normalize that behavior, where somebody makes a bad joke and spreads the bad energy, and then everybody goes and now white people just do that. White people over 40 that grew up on MASH and The Nanny and George Lopez and fucking all these sitcoms like that with the laugh track, it's like they think that that's normal. And living out in the woods, I'm like, that's pagan. that's not normal at all. When somebody makes a bad joke and you all cackle together like creatures. But the thing is that back in 2023, I was a warrior. I was fighting that dragon. You know, I was fighting it off. I was trying to, not singing, but like in my mind, I'm like, if I can see it, I can change it. So I would try to create the inverse of whatever that energy was, and then I would try to get right through it, split it, and then I would heal that bad, try to heal the person, heal the environment, and then try to push it away and say no, and you're gone. So I was trying to do that while I was imagining me fighting off this dragon. Her Nepali neighbors sprint to the door, and they're just like viciously trying to get into the apartment. I'm blocking this disgusting dragon creature from this girl, and as soon as I started to get ground against this spirit, the people who taught her how to do that spiritual whatever she was doing are like freaking the fuck out trying to get into the apartment. So the point is just that the things that I experience, I would completely accept that it was some problem I have if I didn't have so much evidence that it's bigger than just me. Also, all those aliens that I mentioned, a guy named Danny Golan has been working with major college institutions because he found out that when you smoke DMT and you do this test with a laser, over, I think he said something like 5,000 people he's tested this on at this point through colleges. 5,000 people have done a microdose of DMT, and then they're shown a laser, and the laser has a language coming out of it that they can't understand. They haven't deciphered it yet. But they'll tell people, you know, look for, usually they show you pink fluffy giraffes, or usually they'll show you like the Spanish word for cheese or something. Okay, so you know they'll give them something to look for, and they're testing to see, and everybody comes back afterwards and say, no, when you pointed the laser, I saw this, and they describe the symbols, and then they have a bunch of psychological tests with different symbols that look close to what people see, so that they're honing in on what the exact symbols look like based on diversified experience. So they know, just like I've been saying, that in isolation since a kid, I've been able to get to a point where I'm just like the imagination realm, and in that I see things, and I thought I was crazy, but it turns out everything that I see is everything that people see on DMT. I told you I saw a 16-foot tall praying mantis teaching me telepathy. I told you I saw insect-looking humanoids that showed themselves to me by holding onto my leg, and then they jolted my leg, and I involuntarily kicked. I said that I've seen these weird bugs that have 4 legs, but it's like hairs, like 1,000 hair, like millions, billions of hairs in these talons that can move however way it wants. And they told me that thing crawls into corpses, and then that's what the skinwalkers are that people think, is that these things. And that they were never benevolent, they were never bad, though, they seemed indifferent. And then if you look at what Danny Golan said on Sean Ryan, they said that the insectoids are the things that are generating this reality for us, and they're indifferent. The stuff that I saw by myself out in the woods for years, that I thought I was crazy, it turns out that like colleges and governments and all this stuff are coming out and saying that they're real. If it wasn't for that stuff, I'd accept that it was a mental illness. If it wasn't for obvious external effects from this cause, I'd say it was that. Other than the fact that I've asked for can I get a heron flying right to left? And then the next time I sit down, the next day I get one fly slowly over me. Or the countless times that I've looked up at the stars and said, if you guys are still up there, Can I get a shooting star right to left? And then I'll see a UFO turn on this light. It's a light I can't describe. It's beautiful. And then it just slowly moves right to left above my head and then disappears. Or in front of 100 people at Oakledge Park in Burlington at night after I got my car. Spider. I panicked because I didn't know if I should go see my dad or not for his birthday the next day. And for a half hour in front of everybody, I went, should I go? All right, can you go the other way? I don't know. And I panicked in front of everybody watching. And they're seeing me get shooting stars. Right to left when I ask, and then when I ask them to change direction and go the other way to prove it's not a meteor shower, it goes, I'll see like a loop, just to prove to everybody watching that it's not a, shooting stars don't do a loop, and go the other way. And then, to top it off, my dad texts me after I decided I'm going down there to see my dad, which is 3.5 hours away. When I was driving down, halfway down, I was just concerned that I made the wrong decision. And then my dad texted me and said, I saw a shooting star. What else? I would just say watch the Danny Golan, Sean Ryan the whole way through, and it'll make sense to you. If you don't believe it, it's just like an hour and a half. Like when you're driving back from the gym, put it on every day. And you'll see that for whatever reason, the stuff that it takes them, where they have to intravenous DMT into them, and then they sit with scientists and they go hours at a time through the DMT realms and they speak to other entities, and it shows them this language that they're uncovering right now. Looks like it could, they said it looks like it could be Japanese, but it's not. It's just some older language they don't understand yet. But they know that they can do a test, and they've proven that no matter what people are experiencing when they do DMT, when they're shown this specific thing, it gives them the exact same language written on the wall when they point this laser at the wall. They found some break in the code. And he could be full of crap, but everything else that he said lines up with everything that I've seen. Also, I did in 2022 ask, I said, if there's any aliens up there, who's going to believe me? They'll laugh and call me schizo and say, are you on drugs? And then the next morning I woke up and a praying mantis was on the hood of my car, and it sat with me for 3 hours just staring at me. And then in 2022, a month later, Nope came out by Jordan Peele. In Nope, they're trying to get a UFO on camera. They have the security camera pointed at the UFO, and then a praying mantis comes down and blocks the camera and stares at it. So that's all I'm saying. Maybe if they decide, do you think that, let's just say that they're real. Do you guys think that they would talk to you guys? If this is how you would respond? Like, let's just say they are real. Do you think that they would want to spend any time with you? Or the guy out in the woods that every few weeks people come for him. All of his thoughts, if they're at a level that they can read thought forms and they can hear what we think, everything I'm thinking about is just, why do people treat me this way? Why do people treat me this way? I want to build this wagon so that I can start giving them to homeless shelters to help homeless people so that they don't experience what I did when I was just traveling around trying to have an adventure and make songs and make friends and have fun. And then I was traumatized to a point I couldn't function, and then I had to go through I think 5 winters now just trying, and it was just excessive, and it was every day. Out there alone when I just went, are you up there? Can I get right to left? And then, And then I've just started asking more and more. And I've seen tons of stuff out here. You're just learning about CERN? I'll respond to this one. They changed the times a long time ago. Mandela effect started in 2009. Minds predicted end of the world 2012. What if time is not what we know it all? I'm just now learning. Okay, I mean, the thing I want to start with is that in 2019, I drove my car 90 miles an hour into a pole. I was on antidepressants. Antidepressants weren't good for me. Like, I was functioning and I was good enough for everybody. Tons of girls wanted me. It was cool, but it wasn't me. Now that I'm off antidepressants that I've been on since I was 7, I had a chance to actually sit with emotions and actually be on Earth instead of like condensed into this little point up here. But I was couch surfing and trying to save money so that I had just gotten my certificate in audio engineering at college, and I wanted to save up so I could get Ableton and Pro Tools and do sound design and actually make the things that I make in my mind and put it into a computer. But if I wanted to, the only place I could stay and not have to pay rent, my friends were smoking 4-foot bongs. They'd spend their whole paycheck on weed and they would just hotbox it, and there was nowhere else I could go. So I think that the serotonin from the weed with the antidepressants that make it so your serotonin stays in your brain, I think that I was getting a lot of that contact high, and then it was pushing me up. But I would just make music. It wasn't that I was getting mentally unwell. It was just that it was keeping me awake at night. I would just sit and create songs. It wasn't like I would go off on these like tangents. I wasn't spiritual back then at all. I would have stuff like I'd have sleep paralysis when I was 13, and I'd see this dark witch with red eyes and black shadow attacking me, and I had to scream back into my body, and then a week later it scratched my stepfather in his room where I was napping when that happened. I'd have stuff like that. I'd have stuff where I'd be smoking weed and there would be a girl in the car and we'd be driving around a city, and all of a sudden light shining on my head, and then I can just see the strings playing in the community, and I could see the power structure, and I knew where the cops were and which way they were going, so I would move around, and then every street I turned, I'd look through the rear view and the cop would be going by. So I was driving through what felt like something controlled by the Matrix. And that was way before any of this stuff, way before I got into spirituality. Back then I would have said, no, it's probably just psychological and you don't really know what's happening. It's probably something else with the subconscious. Now I'm like, no, we are more connected than we realize to each other and to the earth and to the universe. So I was just picking up a level people had been kind of, you don't know what you don't know, so nobody told you. And they kind of destroyed all the cultures that were into that stuff. But it was just my car broke down the next day. I went to go see my ex because I was having a bad day. I wanted to see my ex, and so I went to her concert, and she was there with another guy, which is fair because I cheated on her all the time. Because I was scared of investing in people, because my first girlfriend was I don't know, would you say that when I'm a sophomore in high school and she's a year out of high school, if that's, I don't think it's predatory, but I think that she was, she was my first love, and she would say stuff like if her friend sees me talking to other girls, she would go cheat on me. And then she would like go down to her ex-boyfriend's house, and then she'd send me a picture like, I'm just here because he's having a bad day. And I'm not sleeping in his bed, but she's in his bedroom, and she took a bunch of couch cushions and made this bed next to his bed. And I was like trying not to, no, I'm trying not to believe it. And then later she's like, oh, he stuck his finger in my ass and then I never washed it. And I came home and hugged you. And I was like, oh my God, dude. And I'd cry and cut myself, man. But then I was the talk of the town. I was hooking up with her. I got mad, and then I would have 3 girlfriends in 3 different towns. But that girl, to be honest, the girl I dated, like my first love, was the best looking girl in town. She was bad as hell. That was kind of part of why I stayed. She was a 10. She was a nut job, but every 10 was a nut job back then. The world was different. But, sorry, your point was about time. When I smashed into the pole, the airbag didn't go off, and I died on the steering wheel. I was taken, like Jordan Peele's Get Out, the sunken place where you're floating behind your body. I was floating in the ethers, in spirit, and I could see my eyes, what my eyes could see, and I was dead. And then like the viewfinder that kids have, that red binoculars that when you flick it, it changes scenes. It changed scenes to a reality where I didn't hit the pole, and I was just sitting in my car. It still hit the pole, but I wasn't dead. And then I was put back in, and then I was just fine. Completely fine, no brain injury, no damage to my body. The airbag still didn't go off, but I was fine. And then Rick and Morty came out, or I started watching Rick and Morty, where they ruined their shit and everybody turned into praying mantises. And then they had to change realities. And I was like, maybe that's what happened. Because I felt like an alien in this place since. Like, it's just, I think, like my natural resonance, my spirit doesn't mix with this place. Like I'm from another place and I killed myself and then they put me in this place. I don't know. I think basically what they're saying is that humans are like AI agents and Source is like delegating us to figure out why God exists, like why Source exists. So we're just sort of going through countless lives and then we go back and share with God what we learned. And then if we get to a point where Spirit is happy with us here, sort of like they're testing AI agents, and then the one that they like the most, they take out of their simulations over and over and over and over again, and then they have those as ChatGPT, they have those as Grok. Once the AI is good enough, they move it from a simulation to what it can be used for. And they say AI is a reflection of people the same way we're a reflection of something else. But we do have a similar, our consciousness is very similar to AI agents, where it's singular, and it has an identity, it has prompted traits, and it does tasks. Whereas AIs don't necessarily have to be that way, but we happen to be almost exactly like the AI agents. I know that when my friend died and he froze to death and I went to his funeral and I didn't know what to say, and I felt God speak, I felt God connect to me, and then I just spoke and I was like, I hope it'll go well. And what I said is that he was the closest thing to family I've ever had, like a brother, and loving him and caring for him like a little brother taught me to love myself, because I'd never had anybody treat me the way that I treated him, and he was so similar to me that it was like I was able to learn how to be there for myself. So after he went on his own thing, it always had to be his way, and I left and traveled around by myself. I had the sort of subconscious, behavior now about how to care for myself, because I was struggling with the same things he was. So I said that he taught me how to love myself. And then I said, and then it felt like God had come down, and I said, I'm so grateful for what I learned from him, because now I'm able to share it with everybody. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. I'm not even sure what I meant by that, but I said that and it felt like God had me say that. So now that it's coming out that humans are like AI agents and we're sharing all our stuff with Source for the collective, it makes sense. And then I will tell you that I saw him phase into reality after he died in the shack in the woods that I lived in. And then I got a ding on my phone, and it was a tarot video that said, your dead brother has a message for you. And the tarot video person says that your dead brother chose to reincarnate, and he just wanted to tell you he loves you before he goes. And that was right after I literally saw him phase into right in front of me, standing there happy, instead of scared like the last time I saw him in a dream where I had to explain to him he was dead. Time is supposedly a construct, because in that, with Source trying to figure things out, the only way for the infinite to separate is with boundaries, and time is one of those boundaries to keep the infinite sort of channeled. Like religion says we're bound in time, and we're bound by Saturn, and then we're bound in the 666. Carbon, which everything here is made of carbon, we're made of carbon, is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. And I think it's 6 on the periodic table. If we're an infinite being or closer to that, but we have to be bound in something to be able to be separated from a greater infinite so that we can have a finite experience, there would be a boundary to make that possible. So time and carbon makes sense to me, that we're bound in something to keep us finite so that we can have a life instead of being greater and experience. You know, we had to get to this point somehow where we don't know everything and we have to learn things in the hero's journey. We're constantly learning and growing and evolving. People are saying that we're actually not learning this stuff. We already know this stuff, but we've bound a section of ourselves to experience this stuff over and over and over and over and over again. Just like how AI agents are given prompts and problem solving and stuff, we're given problems to see all the different ways we solve it and to learn more about problem solving itself. We're having these experiences to learn things in new ways. And that's sort of how the infinite is expanding. The other thing is that the insectoids that I saw, the things that seem indifferent, Danny Golan on Sean Ryan said that the insectoids and mantis beings are indifferent, and that makes people feel the uncanny valley, which is what I've described for years. And that they're actually dark matter, and that the universe is like planets and stars and all this stuff, but in between everything is dark matter. What they're saying is that those things cloak themselves in dark matter in our finite realm so that they don't reveal themselves, and what they do is just move through that network as if the space between us is their realm, and they are helping to keep this whole thing going. So with time, it's just as our souls are on a linear, logic-based trajectory forward, always going through different experiences, learning stuff. Time is just a byproduct or like a effect of that, where in order for us to make this sort of experience happen, we have to experience things linearly. With time travel, what quantum physicists are saying, that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that like the people at the highest level of thought and knowledge, and where we are in science and religion and all this stuff, because religion is just spiritual science if you take it seriously, they're on the same wavelength I am. What they're saying is exactly what I've said before, is that if time travel was possible, it wouldn't be that you're literally able to go back to a previous time unless the current state of you would be able to change back to the way that things were at that level of entropy. So that's what I was saying, is that you'd have to change your energy to be able to match with that time, but it would be forward for you, so you would be going to the past, and then I think it would it'd create a different branch. So it would be decision based. So you would go back to the past, and then depending on your decisions would be how you branch out again. And then you'd have to account if you did find your way, which would take the entire universe's level processing to get you back to that space. Depending on your decisions would be where you branch off. And the thing that I struggled with the most is when I would wake up with my girlfriend in the morning, and then I knew that we would both be making tons of decisions throughout the day, and then when she would come back, I was always worried that it wasn't the person that left, because she branched out in all sorts of different directions, and I branched out in all sorts of different directions. So the person I woke up with in the morning wouldn't be, it would be one of possibly infinite versions of her, and I was always stressed about how to get the right us back together at the end of the day. I would really stress out about that. And now the top physicists in the world, the top, the people that are actually doing this stuff are saying that that's what it is that what Einstein said is time travel was possible, and what physicists are saying time travel is possible. But you would be moving sideways into a thing that's almost exactly like this, but it would have to be a point in the universe where something set back the clock so that humanity developed later, so that you're actually in the same time, but it's in one of the infinite multiverses where their development was halted. So we were here, and this would be the past, but because this universe's development was halted, they caught up, so that this is the past. The past version of you happened, and the past version of the universe happened. Like, let's say the first single-celled organism on Earth started 20 years later in that universe, but everything else was exactly the same. So when you want to go 20 years into the past, you don't go 20 years into your own past. You go to this universe where things happen 20 years later exactly the same way as it happened in yours, is what they're saying, based on string theory and quantum physics and all this stuff. Like, that's the only way it's possible. But I don't believe that. I just believe that there's a foundational aspect of reality that they're not sharing with us. Or they haven't figured out yet. Based off of what I've learned from extra-dimensional intelligence, there's just a light in the tree that blinked at me. But there's bad. There's stuff that takes the voices of, and this wasn't always the case. Before 19, what it would be was one singular voice that would be like a drill sergeant, where I'm in the gym and I'm working out and I want to quit, but then suddenly something greater than myself, or not in a benevolent way, or it was kind of rude. It could have been a guardian angel, I don't know. Would suddenly project the image of the girl I liked getting with a different guy, and that would make me mad. So then I would go harder in the gym. And then as I'm working out, that voice was going, pussy, fucking keep going, fuck, come on. And that would make me mad, and then I would go harder. I had one singular thing like that, and I didn't know if that was, I wasn't saying it was a spirit back then. I wasn't saying it was a guardian angel. I was saying most likely it was that I was alone so long as a child, just living in complete isolation, and then really traumatic things happened to me that I sort of split into a coach or something to help me get through this alone. I always thought it was that, but now that I'm older and the universe, the world, people have changed their tune about what's going on, it might make more sense that it was something greater that we're just not being told exists. Like the natives talk about the star people and the ancestors. And all that. Even Christianity says guardian angels. So, 90% of the world believes that, 90% of the world believes that. If you're part of the 10% that thinks that that's schizo and crazy and I'm on meth, I think maybe it's just you don't deserve to know those things. Why would those things want to help you at all if they were real? So time, saying the Mandela effect and all this, it could be that every decision you make is shifting your frequency into tons of different parallel realities. So you decided something, that the decision you made funneled you into the same trajectory of all these different AI agents in this holographic simulation. And because you had just decided your way too far out from your normal thing, that might cause these sort of shifts where things like Berenstein Bears and all this. It could also just be that the people that control the world control the internet, and they were just making changes. Or this whole thing is a learning experience, and installing the Mandela effect into our simulations give us, which naturally have probing minds, the ability to start to question time itself, which builds a foundation for what's necessary to raise your self to operating outside of the third dimensional space. When I get into that, I start burping like Rick. I do truly believe you, and I believe some of them look like praying mantis. The praying mantis is usually a surgeon who removes negativity. I've heard that before, but I didn't have that. I had one that was like 16 feet tall, walk out from behind a tree during a full moon, like a mile into the woods in the mountains, and then I was like, what the fuck is that? And then it looked at me, and then it shot my own thoughts back into my head and just played my own voice to me so I could see, and it reflected how I was when I was looking out, and like, what is that? It was like, when you talk like that, your mind is fucking hitting me. So this is what it feels like. And it hit me with my own, what is that? What is it? So I was like, oh, so then I let go and I stopped with that. And then I was able to get a lot more information from it, communicating, because I wasn't projecting myself at it. I was observing and experiencing. And then a black shadow humanoid walks out from behind the tree in front of it, and it shows me that it was the guy who owned that shack back in the day, and he had killed himself, or it was me who eventually buys that shack and kills myself, telling me, don't do it, go spend time with people, go have friends and live life, don't waste your youth stuck in that shack like I did, trying to make a maple syrup business out there. It was saying that it was showing me the love and regret that it wanted to spend more time with its family. And then once I learned that, and I was like, okay, I won't try to stay here and build a maple sugaring business like I was trying to do. Somebody just offered me a bunch of maple syrup stuff for free, like a whole car's worth of the tubes and the stuff that you put into it to take the syrup out. And I was going to go back. Years ago, it showed me, don't do that. Go spend time with people, go have relationships and have fun, be a kid. And then once I got that message, they both walked away and disappeared. And then the wah, 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 sound went away. And then all the birds woke up in the middle of the night and started chirping to clear up the space. I also had it float above my head, and then it jolted me, and then my arms went like this. And I was like, what the fuck? And then scrolling on Instagram, I saw a picture of Kim Kardashian and her family. And they were all taking Christmas pictures, and they all had the arms like this for some reason. I'm just now really getting into spirituality. It makes sense to me. Thanks for taking the time to read my comment, even though you hate me. I don't hate you. I don't really know you, but a lot of people read these comments, man. Imagine, it's kind of fair I say that stuff. Are you poor? I never heard of this shit before. A guy named FPG Hateful. That's a kid. He's got a. If he's not a kid, it's pathetic. I think that's a One Piece fucking profile picture. Is that Luffy? All these people calling me poor. It's like, what the fuck? And they're just so negative. They gotta be kids. We would have to go backwards so fast that time would slow down and stop, then start going backwards. The speed rip, no matter apart, light could possibly do this. I don't know. At this point, like, you'd have to find out how to reverse the entropy of the universe, or else when you got back to that, you wouldn't be able to fit in that time, or you would make such a catastrophic change. But maybe that's just thinking that we're more significant than we are. Maybe it would be fine. Or maybe as soon as we get there, because we naturally kind of, our cells change based on our environment, maybe we would just naturally kind of go back to fit. Ever heard of a dog star? No. Fit as flat earther got me on that one. I keep getting ringing in my ears. Natives say the ringing in your ears is your ancestors. I don't see those comments. I have them blocked, so they probably haters. Man, that's fucked. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Bro, you're not clinically insane. You're fucking critically insane. You're going to blow up like a damn nuclear bomb. He's really going to reach me as many people because this stuff is right here is truth. The crow physics is really making sense. Well, I think just the coolest part was, I mean, right before I made that video, I had this realization that that experience with the crows helped a lot, even though it was torture and I hate it, and they're still going every day. It's less imposing, like where they're really like brutally hurting me all the time. It's more like I went to bed, I woke up at like 8 last night, and I felt good, and then I could see that there was a lot of different energies around the forest, and then a crow flew up and went, ah, just a single one, and then I saw it kind of push me back like it was trying to corral me from expanding into the forest, which hurts. It hurts. It makes it hard to think when they try to cut off your presence. They try to make it so you're not here anymore. They try to, like, you know, dissipate everything. That shit sucked. But when I had the realization that, like, it was still an extremely unique experience that nobody else goes through. So I started to be kind of grateful that I went through it. And then a crow flew out from behind a tree, and it flew with my car. I also have a video, I'm not sure if I posted it, where I got a tarot video. I think it was called from a channel called Follow the Crows, and it was 1133 coded. So I was like, follow the crows, and then a crow was, I looked through my rear view, and a crow was flying behind the car, soaring with me as I'm going down this road in the mountains, and there's nothing else there. So I slowed down to let it get ahead of me, and it didn't fly away or freak out. It just kept going straight down. So then I followed it, and then another crow swooped out and started attacking that crow, trying to get it out of the sky. And then they both landed on the ground. So then I stopped the car, and then in the middle of nowhere, on the railing, right where I stopped, right where the crow stopped, there was a little stuffed teddy bear with a heart. And I was like, that's pretty cool. You know? I did have a crow speaking in tongues at me after a hurricane. After I woke up and realized, you know, this, where you feel bigger than yourself, like the earth is so tiny, and that I'm huge, and that I don't fit in the world because it's just huge. I'm like this big soul, and I'm looking around, and everything looks like action figures in this little dollhouse. And then because I have this awareness, I start to look like, I wonder what else is going on. And then things were aware of me. I also have that video where it's just back through my shorts. I've shown it on the channel a few times, where I'm fighting back against the crows without saying a word. I'm just standing there and then caw, and then they and then they stop because I'm pushing them back, because I learned how to do it by being out here for so long. So I'm showing you that I can spiritually influence crow behavior. Not like I'm getting into them and making them caw, but I'm playing on their kind of natural tendencies for like dominance, and I'm showing that they respond to something inside, like my emotions or electromagnetic energy or whatever it is. Whatever substance you call your emotions and thoughts, by controlling that with my years of creating all the time, just nonstop creativity, I was able to, coalesce and make, and then shift and go back and fight. And then I literally told you, I was turned this way, and I was saying, no, I was turned this way, and I was saying, I feel like there's something that's making the crows scared and stop, and it's like this darkness going, and it's asserting over everything, and it's coming in, and I don't know what it is, but I can see the crows are not liking it, and I can feel it over everything. And then I can't see it, but you can see it before I do. As I'm describing this stuff, you see massive hawks came into the space and are behind me. So then I turn around, and I'm like, whoa, there's like 6 Cooper's hawks, huge fucking hawks, came in to get the crows away. And so you could see that I am not full of shit, that I literally felt it. And it's just what happens when you're out in the woods for this long. Also, what the Knights of Columbus have told me, people that like devoted their life to this stuff. There's a guy that has to have prayers in his ear because he says that the demonic entities come in through his left side. So in order to function after he had these spiritual initiations, he has to have prayers going all the time. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of schizo, but I get it. But he told me that he's seen God materialize things out of nowhere all the time. Like he's like in his 70s. He said that growing up and stuff, he said that as a kid, he would always see when there were demons attached to people that was making them lie to him and stuff. And I just take it with a grain of salt, and I go off my own experiences. But then the past week, where I'm at this job site, and the client and the boss are both lying to me about my pay, and they're both like really excessively kind of bullshitting. And I don't think it's at me, I just think they're going through shit. But I can see before they lie to me, I know they're gonna lie to me. And then after they lie to me, I see the darkness jolt them, and then they do the same smile. And then as the day goes by, as I continue just doing a great job, and I work 12 hours a day nonstop, like, it's not, if you saw me, I haven't worked out at all. And I had no muscle at all, because I had just been laying in the camper. And now it's not like I body build. Like, I definitely, if I went to the gym for a week, I'm usually naturally kind of here. But you can see, like, I'm putting a lot of work in, man. I'm looking good. I go non-stop 12 hours. I only stop if my nose bleeds, because I don't have a respirator, and I'm sanding some like expensive acrylic, like thick paint on a $2 million house with just a 5-inch orbital sander. Just put a new pad in, put it at the angle so that I can get in between the log boards. They look like, the siding looks like logs. So I have to get the paint inside in between, so I have to hold it sideways. So when I use a new pad, it's actually really therapeutic to the tops. And then once the top runs down and I get as much, then I start on that, I change the angle, and then I get the top of the board, then the middle of the board, then the bottom of the board. But I usually do the bottom of the board last, because when you do the bottom of the board, the edge of the pad strips off when you hold it against it, because the other board below it strips off the pad. So I do that last. So I do all the tops of the boards as much as my arm can reach, both arms, my wingspan, and then I go under. So then I'll usually sit or I'll lean against something so that it doesn't, it's not exhausting. And then I get all the bottoms of the boards, and I've done It's a 5-car garage. No, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 6-car garage. It's got an attic, like a top floor. So that's huge. I go as much as the ladder can take me. And then the boss and his son do the top part. So I've done the bottom row of the entire house. And the house is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. It's 3 stories. Maybe it's, yeah, like 2.5 stories, 2 stories in an attic. And it's huge. And it's got a huge wraparound porch. Half of the house is just a window, massive window, all the way up to a point. It's huge. And and then they have the basement section. She has a whole room with a pool in it. And then she's so rich, she's moving the pool room, and they're building an entire other pool room in front of it so that they can turn that other space into something else. And then she has her own, there's a whole other room down there, like, so she's got a whole subfloor, like a whole basement that's as big as the house, that I had to go under the deck, under that, to get under that in sand. I've pulled about, I think, 55 hours now, working 12-hour days. And I worked 6 days in a row. I took a day off because my boss broke his ribs, so he's not showing up anymore. And then I went today and I did 5 hours. And then it was just all the bullshit she does, where she comes out and brags about how rich she is and how all the work she did in Hollywood, and then she starts to bullshit about money, and then they go on these tangents where they're stressed about money, and then they casually talk about how wealthy they are. Like, all the work I'm doing, she said that in 5 years she's going to just do it again. It's like a $30,000 paint job she's doing, and she says that she's only testing out that paint for 5 years, and then she's probably going to change it afterwards. He's making 15 grand just building the deck, not including materials. The problem with that is that the sand and scrape and paint was extra. So that's not included in the flat rate. The flat rate is something they already agreed upon, and then they decided that the sanding would be extra. So they're not doing a flat rate. It's $60 an hour. They've already told me that. I was there when they had that conversation. Then I asked him, like, hey, you're not coming to work on Saturday. I don't have it. There's no negative thing, because he was really convinced that I was going to try to take his work because somebody had taken his job before. And I said, no, you've bought me lunch. You seem like a good guy. I'm not somebody that does people wrong, but because he was like just freaking out about money all day, saying like he's always like trying to put me down to 15 an hour. I said, hey, no bad thing, but are you, for these, I'm going to be working 12 hours on Saturday, $20 an hour. For every hour I work, are you making $60 an hour and you're paying me 20 of that? And he goes like, yeah. So he made 12 hours at 12 hours at 20 an hour is $240. So he made 240, 480, $720, right? Yeah, $720. He made $720 for my and then he's giving me, so he made $480. Then he broke his ribs, so now I've pulled all these hours, and he made double the amount, and he didn't even have to come to work. So I told the client that, and then she lied to me. He's like, no, he's doing a flat rate, and I was like, but that's all this is extra, right? Because it just felt like the way that they talked to me, there was something about that they knew they were taking advantage of me, and they were kind of happy about it. They had said the phrase getting played, like they're playing somebody, they're playing me. And I was like, so I looked it up and I talked to Grok about it, and they're like, okay, you don't have insurance, they didn't provide a respirator, you're buying the materials. They said that the money that he's getting paid covers the materials, but I'm buying these pads. So I said, how much do people normally charge? And Grok said they usually charge between 25 and 28 for that if you're part of a bigger company. So you are getting this, they're giving you a really shitty deal here. Also, they didn't give you a respirator, and you're putting all these forever chemicals in your lungs that go deep into your lungs and stay there for years. You're really fucking yourself up with this. Plus, they treat you like crap. And then they brag about how they play people. And then they pretend like they're poor, and then they brag about how much money they have. It seems like there's a lot happening there. And so I went and talked to a bunch of contractors that hang out at the gas station, and I said how much I told them the whole job stuff. They said charge $35, and if they don't like it, fucking walk. My company charges $180 for that, and then I get paid $45 an hour for that. $12 hours a day, not including lunch. So I only work 11 hours because from noon to 1 I go get a sandwich at the deli, and I come back and I sit there for 45 minutes. So I'm not going to charge them more. I should charge them more, but there's no guarantee he's even going to pay me cash at this point. He won't answer my texts. He's emailing because she broke her phone. But I wanted to say that after the first day when he said he would buy lunch, and then he took $20 from my pay to pay for lunch, so he stole $6 from me after the job ended, after the first day ended. And I was kind of like, that's kind of weird. He took $6 from me. He was just kind of going on his loop, and in the loop he kind of lies, and then I have to correct him. And it could just be that the math is wrong and he's stressed about other stuff. I don't know. But when it comes to pay and money, there's always this kind of at me, and I'm just like, I'm just trying to get paid, man. I do it perfect. And God had told me, or like this, it's a feminine voice. It comes down, and I was like, are they going to get punished for the way that they treated me? And then the same voice that said, go to sleep, let us handle it. After I cried about the cop that was raping homeless women and they really hurt me really bad for a long time. And I felt like the trauma after that made me regress, and I wasn't able to get opportunities I probably could have gotten back in 2024. And because of that, my little brother fell and froze to death. And I wasn't able to find land and get him out of his situation. So he probably would have been alive if I hadn't gone through that stuff. And the way the cops, what they did to me was really bad, and they're doing it to a lot of people, probably much worse than what happened to me. And I just freaked out and yelled at God, why do you hurt me so much, but the people that hurt other people like this, they don't get in any trouble, and they're so happy that they're getting away with it? Why aren't you doing anything about it? And then I heard the feminine voice say, just go to sleep, let us handle it, we're proud of you. And then I woke up, and that cop was dead. He fell over dead of a heart attack 15 minutes after that conversation. That same voice came down and said he's going to lose his demolition derby. So like 4 days before he went to his demolition derby, they told me, he's probably going to get, I was like, why isn't he getting punished? And they said he's going to lose his demolition derby. He's going to lose his thing. He's going to lose his dream because of how he treated you and other people. And then he got T-boned immediately and fucking broke a lot of his ribs. I can also show you a tarot video that same day. When I was going to the gym, I put on a tarot video. And he's a Cancer Leo cusp. He's born the 22nd of July, so he's a Cancer Leo cusp. And King of Cups and King of Wands came out. Strong fire sign, strong water sign, Cancer and Leo. And they said that he, in the tarot video, said he will experience the pain that he caused others to feel. And then 3 days later, he gets T-boned and broke all of his ribs. And where I'm coming from at this point is that the people at the top of science, the people at the top of mathematics, the people at the top of physics, the people at the top of religion that take it seriously, high-level players, they're all saying the same stuff that I'm saying. And I thought all this stuff came to me before I got into that. Like, I never watched the Sean Ryan podcast before the other day. And I watched the Sean Ryan podcast, and I watched the one with The Exorcist, and I watched the one with Brian Keaton, I think his name is, Brian, and then I watched the one with Danny, so it's Danielle and Brian, the same names, and then Sean Ryan. And they're saying the same stuff. Every single entity that I've encountered, Danny Glover says that they encounter when they do DMT. The same stuff that I experienced that I felt was demonic is exactly what The Exorcist says. Every conclusion that I've gotten to independently out here in the forest or by myself is exactly what the people at the top of their field are saying is real. It's more evidence to me that I'm onto something here. Not on something, onto something. Am I homeless? No, this is where I live. I live on a mountaintop. I live on a mountaintop, 100 acres. What would you do if you saw curly hair in your food but the chef was bald? Yeah. How much money do I have in my wallet? Because I bought this gazebo and that cost me $200, and I bought pads for work, and I bought socks, I bought underwear. I spent 20, because where I went, there's no Taco Bell around me here. So I hadn't had Taco Bell in years. And where I drove, they had a Taco Bell. So I got a Crunchwrap Supreme, a steak Fresca. That's why it was weird. I asked for chicken, and they gave me steak. I was like, this chicken's fucking uncooked. It was fucking steak. That's why it was chewy. I have. Where's my wallet again? I just had it. I've been outside of a strip club. I never went in. I've been to a lot of clubs in Albany though, and in Miami. 1, 2, 3, 10. We're gonna sort the bills. You can't see all my cash, man. But I bet I have better service here. I'm just gonna separate the dollars. 5, 20. This receipt important? Yeah. These receipts are kind of important to prove that I actually bought the materials. I don't know, man. I think you guys are dorks. I'm like this because I went through so much shit in life. You're like that because you went through nothing. 300 big ones. Which to me is amazing. Because I lived off -5 for years. So I'm really proud of myself, man. I didn't think I'd be able to work. And now I asked God if I should leave that job because of how they treat me, and then my whole body, like my mind went over here, and then I looked, and over across the field was a massive farm. And I was like, you know, there's so many farms out here. I bet I could just fill up my day working at one farm in the morning with whatever they need, going to the other farm in the afternoon, hanging out with animals. But if it wasn't for the people, I'd really like that work. Yeah, I had 700, now I'm down to like 200, 300, 400 bucks. Fuck! Because I spent 200 on this gazebo. And then I come back and people smashed my gazebo. I'm trying to help them. I'm trying to make this place better, and they're whiny butthurt boomers throwing temper tantrums. So 300 320, 330, 340, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I have $365. I also bought that. I had to drive. It cost me like $30 in gas, and I drove out and bought a $50 woodshed. Plus, I bought a gym membership for $50. And then every time after work, every time I get done with work, I have all these chemicals on me. And if I tried to not have it on, I tried to not shower, and then it started to dig into my skin, and it was bad. So I bought a gym membership, and it's 40 miles away to the nearest gym. The gym membership up here I don't like the people at all. It's a bunch of like really crazy white people that are so far out of whack from Facebook and just lack of social conditioning because there's nobody out here. So they're all like the people with the blue line thing, and on the 4th of July they fly the Confederate flag, and they just drive around angry, gripping the steering wheel, in a bad mood. But they're not in a bad mood. It's more like they're trying to hold all this power, all this bad energy. And all they do is really talk shit about other people. They don't build on anything. All I've ever heard from them is just shit talking people they don't even know. So, and it's not like they're mad about specific things. Like, I don't like that he grips the steering wheel and he's in bad vibes. It's more like just those fucking people. So I didn't want to I'm not paying them. It's $150 for a gym membership for that one. I would at the end of the day, because it's only a mile away. At the end of the day, at the end of the month, I would actually be saving money because it cost me $12 to go to the gym every day, every time. But right now they owe me, I'm owed $800 right now because I put 40 hours in at $20 an hour. So they owe me $800 right now. I don't know if I'll get paid that. How are you planning to pull a baddie? I've pulled a lot of baddies in my day, but that was 7 years ago. Haven't really pulled I've pulled since 2019, I've pulled 3 baddies, and a bunch of gang members made me fuck a prostitute instead of getting jumped in when I lived in New York. So I just stuck it in one so she could see how big it was, and then she went, "I think I met my match." And I said, "I hope it works out for you," and then I washed my dick and then left. And then I fucking just got out of there. But it was because these fucking Jamaican pimp, these ex-gang members, vice lords, I don't know if they still are or aren't, but they were all on probation. We were living in this motel program together. And he was a pimp. He's not now. He's a carpenter now, but he was. But we would all go to Albany, go to the clubs and shit. But they made me fuck the prostitute. They're like, "I paid for this, you gotta do it." And she was fat as fuck, she smelled. So, but I wanted her to be like, "He's big, he hurt me." And I knew that this Jamaican Leo, who was like, I think he was like 5'5". He was a huge guy though. He had a lot of respect for me after that. There was also like a 19-year-old Mexican girl that I beat the shit out of her boyfriend, and then she stayed in my room and she sucked my dick all night for like 3 hours. And I just kind of was like, okay. And she kept wanting to sleep with me, and I was like, nope. But if you want to keep going, go for it. This is nice. And then the next day they passed her around. You're about to get jumped in the US military in a draft. Joke's on you, I tried to commit suicide. So now they said possibly bipolar on my, one hospital says I'm not bipolar after in Florida, I was taken in for having a little bit of weed on me in Miami, so they put me in a hospital. Because I was sleeping behind a hotel on the docks. I was staying with YouTubers that had 20,000 subs, and then one had 200,000 subs, and one had like 200,000 followers on Facebook. And got drunk and high, and I get this thing where I get sleep paralysis when I'm awake, like I lock up, and I don't know what to do. So they said I was killing it. I got like 15 girls' numbers. This baddie was just wandering around after I got her number. It was just her kind of walking around by herself out there, and it was like a simulation. It was during COVID, so nobody was outside because they had a curfew. And then this girl that I had gotten her number, one of them was just walking around Miami right by our B&B. And then right before we go out there and I see the girl I'd already gotten her number, this pickup artist with hundreds of thousands of subscribers walks up to me and goes, "This is your last chance to live with us. God said this is your last chance." And then he just turns around and walks out. So I follow him out, and then the girl that I had gotten her number was just standing there. So then he goes up and tries to get her number, and then I walk in front of him. I was like, "Are you cheating on me?" And then he was like, "No, no, no, no." And I was like, "It doesn't matter what you say as long as you're fun." So I tried to, but he ruined it. He didn't know I'd already gotten her number. I should have told him that. But after that, I decided that I had a better looking girl at home, and I kind of didn't want to jeopardize that, because she had called me and said that God had told her that I had already slept. She said, "I'm seeing you've already slept with 3 people." And I was like, "No, but I am kind of, I could sleep with 3 people." Were they sex traffickers? I don't know. But when we got back up into the Airbnb, there was she was a therapist, and she was like 28, and she was really hot. And she did like me, but there was also a guy named Rick, actually, that he was like 6'2", maybe 6'4", and he did MMA. Super narcissist, gelled his hair and shit, because he's from a city. They're crazy out there. And I was like, I might as well let him hit, because I'm kind of just thinking about, I've got a badder girl at home. But her mom was there. Her mom was there with them. So I was sitting in the back with her mom. And I'm just talking with the mom the whole time. And the mom told me, these people are probably sex traffickers. And I looked at them, and then the assistant to all these YouTubers looked at me like, that was the look. I mean, kinda. So when I didn't hook up with the girl, he told me to kill myself, and then I decided I didn't want to stay with them that night. So I went somewhere else, and then I wandered around, smoked some weed with some hobos. The weed had like this metallic taste, and then this fat black woman goes by and goes, "Oh, they're smoking the good shit, huh?" And I'm like, "Is this meth? Did you lace it? Is this crack? What did you put in the weed to make it like this metal?" Because I'm from Vermont, where everybody's got like 15 plants. Every single downtown in Vermont smells like weed. So when I go to Miami, it's like metal. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then there's this guy wearing all black that I just keep seeing him. Like, I just look over and he's standing there staring at me. And then I'd go like a mile down the road, and then I'm hanging out with some other people, a bunch of like teenagers on skateboards. I'm hanging out with them. And then I look over and the guy's still there watching me. And then I go another 2 miles down the road, and I decide to stay at this dock. And I felt like I failed. I was like, I failed it. I came down here to be famous and become the editor for these YouTubers and make better content, because they're good at the pickup artistry. They're really bad at making YouTube videos, and I could bring them to the next level. and I felt like I fell. So I'm sitting on the dock, and then I feel the devil himself. It feels like the devil himself. I know something's there. I don't know. I'm not looking, but I know that I know that he's there. It's like a demon or the devil or something. And then it walks behind me, sits down, and it's the guy that was watching me, the guy in all black. And then he goes, you know, you're here. You met me because you failed, didn't you? You came here for something and you failed. So I'm here. And then I felt like I couldn't move and I was completely lifeless. And there was no spark, no imagination, no star energy that I had, no me. And I was gone. And then he goes, ah! And then I feel like I'm 6 years old again and the lights are really bright and I just feel like new, brand new. And he goes, I took your water, but I gave you new water. I didn't have to give you new water, but I like you. And then he got up and walked away. And then I passed out immediately, just fell over and passed out. And then I woke up to the cops being like, what are you doing? Is that weed? And then I look and someone had left a bag of weed on me. So somebody was walking around and saw me pass out. I was like, give him the rest of the weed before we go up to the motel. Let him, when he wakes up, give him some. So I woke up and someone had left me some weed. So he made me throw it out and then they put me in a hospital. Instead of arresting me, because the weed's illegal there at the time, they put me in a hospital and they didn't give me any diagnosis. When I was taken into DCF when I was 14 and I told people that I like to imagine Sean Spencer from Psych sitting next to me as I go through life because it helps me, you know, be like him. If I imagine Michael Weston from Burn Notice and Sean Spencer from Psych as literally next to me, it helps remind me of who I want to be, and it kind of channels my creativity so I can act in character in life. So they gave me schizoaffective at first, but then after like 2 months, I said, you know, I did acid 3 times before I came in here to DCF. So then they gave me HPPD, which is permatripping, and then they got rid of that diagnosis when they found out I was fine, and that I did IQ tests, and I got 145 for an IQ test. So they were like, oh, actually, I think we'd only give you Savant syndrome, but it's out of the DSM. So they took off the diagnosis, and I think the rest was just like depression 1, which is just you're sad. That was my only diagnosis. But because in my file, it originally said schizoaffective before they changed it to HPV, and then before they took it out completely because I was fine. When Spring Harbor and Miami got my files, it said schizoaffective. So then they sent it back. They also, at the end of it, they said, I don't think you're bipolar. I don't think you're schizoaffective. I think you're fine and you have a lot of potential in life. You're very smart and you should just apply yourself, is what the doctor told me. And then he said, you can leave whenever you want. So then I left that afternoon. But because that paper that said preliminary diagnosis schizoaffective from 2014, my mom has held that over my head for years, saying, he's schizoaffective, he's schizoaffective. I'm like, no, you're retarded. And I have $365. Did you know there's a pretty solid correlation causality confirmed between high IQ and success? Every time I make a perfect song, I'm violently attacked. Every time I start to live free and break out of the simulation, everyone and their mother comes against me. And it just went on for so long that I became this. I had a 145 IQ when I was 14, and I had lived in isolation prior, just an only child alone in the mountains by myself with nobody, building Legos and watching Nickelodeon and Disney Channel and Cartoon Network by myself. One of the highlights of my childhood was when Yogscast made the Volts video, The Bomb, and watching Yogscast Sips. The highlight of my childhood was watching Yogscast Sips by myself. You know what I'm saying? I would play Minecraft by myself and make these huge cities. I had a room full of Legos, about like $300,000 worth now. Back then it was just like every month my mom would buy with disability money, she'd buy me a Lego set. Like on Christmas or my birthday one year when I was in 4th grade, she got me the Siege Tower with the goblins. That was pretty cool. I got like a bunch of Star Wars sets and the Mars mission. My dad and I made the Mars mission together. That was pretty cool. And I had a shit ton of Bionicles. And then one day all my Legos disappear. 341 minus 68. 68 minus 41 is 17, right? Because 50, no, 27. So 300 minus 27 is 273. $273. Let's check my work. 368 minus 41. 68 minus 1 is 67. 67 minus 40 is 27. 300 minus 27 is 273. Have you ever listened to gay porn? I've never watched it. Not even once. When I was 14, my friends Sam and Ryan were at my house because when I was 14, my mom moved into Whitingham, Vermont, which has a population of 500 people, and there was a homeschooled family of 11 kids. No, 11 people, 9 kids, including the dog. There was one of every zodiac sign, which was pretty cool. And the Pisces was born March 3rd, and she was a 33 life path, which was pretty cool. She was my first crush. I loved her. And we would cuddle in my bed, and I was too scared to make a move because she was a year older, and she was dating 17-year-olds. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, I just need to state my intent and not make it cringe. And she absolutely would have sucked my Johnson. I had 2 girls at my house all the time that were baddies. And I was autistic and didn't do anything because I'd never done anything. And then I fingered a girl and broke her hymen, and I was grossed out by the blood, so I walked her to my friend's house and then just walked home and left her there. I don't know how she got home. I felt really bad about that. Years later with my first girlfriend, I saw her and I was just like, hi, and then she wouldn't even look at me, and I was like, oh shit. No, fuck. I did something really bad when I was 14. And then, but my friend Sam and Ryan were over. Sam was one of those kids, and we typed gay black midget porn, and then we saw the first video that popped up, and then we clicked it and then immediately turned it. We're like, Ryan, look, and he went, ah! And then we X'd out of it because I didn't want to see it. That's the closest I've come to watching it. What's 3/4 of a fifth? Oh my god. It would be... Wouldn't it be 3/4 of a fifth? I could do it. I just don't want to do it in my head. Do I have a pen? I know that 3.14159. 2 maybe, is that pi? Do I have a pen? 3/4 of 1/5. I do have an expo. I have an expo marker here. Let's do it on my ideal protein. I'm not sure I remember how to do this. What's the decimal for a fifth? A fourth is 0.25. Isn't a fifth like 0.22225? Or is it 0.17? That doesn't make sense. I'm not sure I remember how to do this. 3/5 of, oh no, I remember. Okay, it's coming back to me. You have to make it so they're even. So 1/5 is out of 20th. 1/5 is 420. 4/20ths, and 3/4 is 15/20ths. Three 20ths are 0.15. I'm getting there. 3/4 of 1/5 equals 3/20ths. I was so close. I know 1/5 plus 3/4 would be 19/20ths. Was it divided though? I'm not going to read that. I'm going to do the math. 3/4 of a fifth. Oh, so that might be wrong. Hold on. 3/4 of 1/5. So 1/5 is 4/20ths. So 3/4 of 1/20th would be 3/20ths. There we go. It took me a second because I haven't done it in a long time. If you're trying to get 3/4 of 1/5, 1/5 is 4/20ths. So 3/4 of 4/20ths is 3/20ths. Because 4/4 of 1/5 would be 4/20ths. I had 145 IQ when I was 14. I've had a brain injury. I've been alone, traveling, traumatized for years. And I smoked a lot of weed when I was 18. I've never said that I have the same IQ, but I'm saying that it's proven I had a 145 IQ when I was 14. Some days it might be 170, some days it might be 90. But I know that I barely tried in school and I aced it. Everybody was copying off my work because he would just say what he's trying to teach, and then that's in my head. Like my Minecraft inventory of information, I could just go, this is everything I've ever learned from this class. Well, and then all my memories are right here with everything that he said. Photographic memory, just pull out the day and the time and everything that he learned and all the thought forms that I stored into my memory. So then when it came time to just do what he taught me to do, I would just do it. I didn't check my work, and I always got 100%. The baddest girls in school, Kylie and Brooke. There was also Chloe. I dated Chloe, and then there was also Garrett. I dated Garrett. I didn't date Kylie or Brooke because they were hooking up with a lot of people and they smoked a lot of weed, and I felt like that. I felt like they were bad. They would be bad in my life. So I didn't. But they would sit. The baddest girls in school would sit on my right and left side, and they would copy off my math work. And then I would go date another girl, and I'd sit with the other girl. And then when I would break up with her or something, I would go back and just sit down next to them. And they were all really happy that I was there. And then they would invite me to hang out with them. They'd try to take me to Chinese food. They would try to hook up with me, and I just didn't do it. And I wore a fedora. And I was getting stuff like that, man. It was a circular bowler hat, but it wasn't like the thick material like cowboy hats. It was like a one of one. There was only one of them ever made. It was really nice. It had a checkerboard pattern on it. We've tried to find that hat again, and we can't. Just nobody has any. Nobody's selling any. It hasn't. It was a one of one. So it wasn't exactly a fedora, but it was a hat. And it was a different type of hat. And I liked it because I could put my hair back when I had shorter hair, and then I could push it up like this. I thought that was pretty cool. And girls loved it. The only person that ever thought it was cringe was addicted to crack when she was in school. Fucking Clarissa. Clarissa was I called her Crackhead Clarissa. Crackhead Clarissa didn't like my hat. Everyone else really liked my hat. So, go fuck yourselves. I thought it was pretty cool. Joe Mama. Should I put half Walkman in timeout for 10 seconds? When you put them in timeout, it deletes all their messages, so I'll leave them because I'm not even reading chat really. It's gonna rain all day tomorrow, so I'm not gonna go to work. It's 3 in the morning. I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna clean my car out, put it all into the trash can. I'm gonna get this fucking gazebo out, build the gazebo, take all my trash. I'm gonna just chuck it in the dumpster. And then at night, I'm gonna take the mattress and dump it in the dumpster. That mattress out there that's moldy now. Then once all the trash is out, then I'm going to get my drill and undo this awning that I built during cancer season because it was 95 degrees every day. And then I'm going to bring the shelter, maybe I'll bring the carport that I built up and I'll put the carport on the camper over where the leaks are. And then I'll put the Shelter Logic tarp over. I really wanted it so that this would be a big cross right here and then the angled roof so that all the snow and water go off the side here, but it's not just like a shitty one. It looks cool. And then I want to take a Sawzall and cut that part out and put a door there, or put a bay window or something really cool. Are you living in a camper truck? I'm living in a camper. I lived in a tent between a tent and a car for 4 years. Sometimes when it would get really cold, I would hide. One winter I spent hiding. I would go in at 8 o'clock and I would hide in the dryer until they closed. And then at midnight I would get out, unlock the door of the laundromat, go out and get my music studio, my Presonus E5s, my Scarlett Solo, and my Audio-Technica headphones, and my microphone, and I would put all of it into a laundry basket, and I would bring it into that laundromat and make music in the laundromat. And then when the owner stormed in, whipped open the dryer, and then stormed back out, and I didn't move, I was like, I'm laundry. I'm just a pile of clothes. So then I had to start, I could barely fit in between the wall and the vending machine, but I would hide behind the vending machine. Because I tried to get a job at Planet Fitness. They said they really needed help. When they found out I lived in the car, they trespassed me. So I couldn't get a job. And I didn't even know I didn't have 2 forms of ID because I'd never gotten to that point. Nobody wanted to hire the homeless guy. And I was like, I'm not an addict. I want to work at the gym at nights. I'm here anyway. I'm a good worker. I want to get money while also working out and improving my life. I thought you guys would be really excited about that. But they weren't. They treated me like shit, and then they trespassed me. Because it was a black dude with dreads that was in college, and I said, stop being prejudiced, man. And he got really mad about that. I was like, don't you think you're being kind of prejudiced? Why are you so mad at me, man? It's not me. You need employees. So what's my story? Why can't I find work? When I was born on the 11th, God played every major 7th chord. The clouds opened and crowds formed. Angels rained down holy heaven. Swords and corpses spill and fell around the boy with an aura red, green, and gold. A legend who can't die until his story's told. I smoked, took control, broke about the mold, went and found my soul. Now I'm in control, met the Holy Ghost. He taught me how to float. Then I bought all my preachers and Uzi. You can't chill in my jacuzzi because all of you losers are useless. I just made a porn. They're paying to view it. You're fucking a fucking computer. Quit making your fucking excuses and just fucking do it. I'm sick of this shit. It's so stupid. You bitches aren't woke. You're barely lucid. I can tell how you're made by your music. You're gullible, easy to influence. You don't got a brain, you barely use it. I said, you don't got a brain, you barely use it. I can speak alien fluent. I'm making Satan look stupid. You try and stop the revolution, I'll pull up and shoot you like Vladimir Putin. But yeah, I think I was conceived around St. Patrick's Day. I was supposed to be born on the winter solstice, but I came out on the 11th, which makes me a 33 life path, born on the 11th. Sagittarius in the 8th house sun, Aquarius in the 10th house moon, Taurus rising and Saturn Taurus, Leo in North Node, Capricorn midheaven, Cancer IC, which means that essentially I'm like this tree that lives in the underworld that is constantly alchemizing the pain around me and horrible experiences and constantly reviving that into the highest frequencies possible, connecting the heavens and the earth, the bridge between man and nature, and completely incorruptible, because I'm always taking it to purity, to the highest forms with Sagittarius, spiritual childhood. And Aquarius in the 10th house means that when I'm alone, or how I experience emotion is no emotion, completely logically experiencing the universe through complete logic. And so people would say I'm a sociopath or autistic, but it's this vast expanse of information. So, and then the 10th house makes it so I'm exalted, placed away in power as a public figure in my alone time. Working with all these huge energies to dispel hindering influence and terrible narratives. So people would come against me with the Saturn and Taurus. People would try to break me physically as I'm on this righteous adventure until I'm placed away in power on a hill. So if you look at my life, I was in Section 8 with my mom at the bottom in Brattleboro, Vermont, and then I would go stay with my dad in an abandoned ski resort on top of a mountain with a room full of Legos by myself. And then my mom would go crazy and then, karmically attack my physical, and then I would have to move to a different location and then do it again, just back and forth. And then as an adult now, when my car will break down and I end up by the Burlington waterfront, and then I have to climb all the way up that huge hill to go do my stuff. And then and then eventually I started performing songs, and then my car breaks down in Randolph, and I'm at the bottom of this valley, and then I would climb all the way up this 7-mile hike and live in a shack in the mountains. And now I'm in a camper on a mountaintop, and then I have to go down into town to deal with all the bullshit. Cyclically. And then my name, and then I'm born on the 11th, which is the master number, the master visionary, the receiver of all different informations, connecting all these different realms into one confined thing, that has this higher responsibility to enhance and work with the collective conscious of humanity, which is why Joe Rogan is a Leo born on the 11th, so he deals with the same stuff, this receiver of information, this dark gray, black energy that deals with the collective consciousness, but their sun sign is how they do that. So Joe is a Leo, so he has the 11, so he has this influence on the collective. But as a Leo, he mainly does his work by building one singular space and having tons of people orbiting that space, like the sun and the planets and the asteroids and all this. So he has the Comedy Mothership and his podcast, and he has all these people around him. Aiden Ross is a Libra 11, which means it's the balance between opposing forces. So Aiden popped off because he would bring hood gangsters in to deal with gay suburban kids, and they would and then he would be there with them, and that's how he did it. And now he does fights. He does kick MMA. So now he's moderating these fights, the balance between two opposing forces. But he's an 11. Alex Jones is an Aquarius 11, so that's the righteous truth, dispelling the narratives in this war of the epicenter of this hurricane of truth, destroying all this bad. So he's just, they're putting chemicals in the water, turning the frogs gay, they're making hybrid alien people with spider DNA that are shooting out silk to make body armor. He's an Aquarius 11. And I'm a Sagittarius 11. So what am I doing? I'm adventuring and having fun through horrible shit, fighting on this war, leading a stampede to connect nature and people, the heavens and the earth, philosophizing my horrible experience to share spiritual wisdom, and having the best sex possible, the zodiac. Jay-Z's a Sagittarius. Kai Cenat's a Sagittarius. Cinna's a Sagittarius. Why the long face? Because we're Sagittarius. Because we have the connection to the heavens and the underworld. That's why we have the long face. You can look at my face and look at Jay-Z, look at Kai Cenat, look at Cinna, and you'll see the same face shape. But then when you look at my name, my name is a tree exalted. Casey means the tree of life, incorruptible and pure, 33 life path, the divine child, the most evolved iteration of the soul before it's taken out of this simulation to be placed among whatever reality is. Like the same way that they make all these AIs do simulations until they're good enough to be taken out of the simulation and then put to work. So Casey's the tree of life. And then it traveled, like the Sagittarius, it traveled to Celtic Europe and became Kehasa. So originally, Acacia or Casey, Acacia meant the tree of life, incorruptible, connects the heavens and the earth. No matter how many times you cut it down, Saturn and Taurus, it grows back, pure Sagittarius in the 8th house. Then it became that sort of purity that cannot be affected. When it moved from Africa to Europe, it became vigilant, or always aware. Always aware, because awareness is God. Then when it moved to Ireland, it became brave, or fear that can't, fear can't affect it. You can see the same sort of theme, the same motif of this purity. So Acacia became Kehasa, which became Casey. So Casey means the tree of life. It also means exactly what my astrology and my numerology mean. O'Brien means exalted on a hill in power, descended from giants who sacrificed themselves to save the world, to save Ireland. Brian Boru, who's a red-haired giant, just like the giants in Afghanistan that they found, that have 6 fingers and 6 toes and are 9 feet tall with red hair. Brian Boru is a red-haired giant. He was from a noble family in Ireland of red-haired giants. So, and then he died at 70 because he spent his whole life, after being homeless at 14, he spent his whole life fighting back against the Vikings until they kicked them off. And I was homeless at 14, and I spent my whole life trying to stop this bullshit. But O'Brien being a castle placed away on a hill, a holy hill, and Aquarius, 10th house of Capricorn, exalted in power. It means the same thing. My name, my astrology, my numerology, and my life. I'm now exalted on a hill. There's a giant 3-story tall glowing cross down the hill from me, and I'm on this mountaintop. My life reflects my astrology, it reflects my name. It's proof of God. And you can find out why you're made the same way if you post your birthday. I'll do somebody's life path right now to prove it. Just post your full birthday. I'm also an Earth Cat, Ding Fire Rooster, Daymaster in Oriental astrology. I'm calling it schizoid affective disorder. It's okay, I'm messed up too. Well, I'm not messed up. I have CPTSD, but I've gone to, I go every year to a therapist and I talk with him for hours. And they say the same thing, is that I'm a genius. The last time I went into therapy, it was an Orthodox Christian, and I was explaining to him how I could trigger the crows, and then a crow flew up to the window and screamed at him. And then I showed him that I could block it, and then the crow went, ah, and it flew away. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, he said, you ran my little brother Jacob Jamerson over at the stop sign by the Speedway gas station. Hey, he had it coming. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, his name's my name. John Jacob Jamal Schmidt. Nigga got the same name as me. I feel sick. That's how deer sound. Ah! You think that deer would make a pretty noise like meow, meow, but they go. Ah! You're just sitting in the woods, and all of a sudden, 3 animals go. Ah! Animals are robots, but meat robots that serve a purpose. Animals act like animals, and then all of a sudden they snap and do some crazy shit to keep the reality going. Like one time I woke up in the middle of the forest, and there was a demon attacking me, and it was destroying my songs, and it was connecting me to crackheads that were overdosing on heroin at the park and ride. And I was being pumped full of their codes and becoming a junkie spiritually. And I was trying to make it stop. I was like, what are you spiritually? And then I saw the Dark Magician from Yu-Gi-Oh! I was like, that's the best way it could describe what it was a dark magician. And then I was trying to fight it off, and I couldn't make it stop, and I was pain. And then I hear a bunch of rustling, lots of rustling through the woods. It sounds like 8 different things. And in my head, I'm like, this is a fucking satanic cult. I'm seeing the thing that showed me it was a dark magician. It's doing things to me spiritually. I'm trapped. I'm on a pallet in the middle of the woods with a tent with no stakes, just laying there, and I can't move, and I'm being attacked by a demonic presence. And then there are 8 different things walking around outside in the middle of the night, a mile into the woods on this mountain. Nobody around. I'm like, fuck, it's a satanic thing. They're gonna get me. It's because I started posting on YouTube. They found me. And then all of a sudden an animal like a coyote or a fox runs in and then presses itself against my leg and then calms itself down until my energy and its energy are the same rhythm. It matches my vibe, and it starts calming me down. And then when it connects to me, I can see all the different entities out there that I thought were Satanists are animals. And there's like 4 deer, a couple of raccoons, and some other thing I don't know what it is, are all around the cabin. I'm telling 100% the truth. I've talked about this for years. At the top, outside that shack is a little tiny hill in the woods. That when it floods, it just wipes dirt through the whole shit. But at the top of that little hill up there is a deer. I can see it's a buck. And the buck goes, ah! It shoots light. Connects to the fox. Then connects all the way out to the animal out there. Makes a line of light. Blocks, starts pushing back the frequency of that demonic creature. The demonic creature hits me, and I see a buck head on a mantelpiece, and it's transmitting to the buck through me, "You're gonna get killed, bitch." And then the buck pauses, and I can see the energy. It's asking me, how do you feel about that? So then I quickly imagine fences around the whole property, and that it could be there and live there, nobody could hurt it, and I would be feeding it every day the pellets, and that it could be like a wildlife preserve. And the buck goes, smacks a birch tree down, walks away, and then as soon as it walks away, all the other animals get up and they all follow it. And then the spirit just dissipates. I live on a mountaintop on a 100-acre property with a massive glowing cross 3 stories tall that overlooks the town. But yeah, that happened. I don't know why it happened, but it happened. It was real. It was not a dream. It really happened. That shit really happened to me. Just entertain the idea. What if I'm telling the truth? Because I am. Then I woke up in sleep paralysis, and there was a demonic entity attacking me, dissolving my songs and eating them. And I go, what are you? And it shows me the image of the Dark Magician from Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that's what I would understand. If I saw a hooded figure, I might not understand, but dark magician, clearly I can understand what it's saying. Then paralyzed, being attacked by this thing, bunch of noises, I don't know what it is. A fox runs in or a coyote presses against my leg. I can see the animals out there now. It's a bunch of deer and a bunch of animals, and then the deer makes a noise that shoots light that heals my aura, dispels that thing. Before that thing goes away, it shows me an image of a buck head. The buck is like, what do you think about that? I try to imagine it becoming a wildlife preserve and I'd help it. It's like, fuck that. It knocks a birch tree over and then walks away, and then they all get up and follow it out. You don't have to do drugs to do that. I don't know why that happened to me, but it happened. If you think it's a bunch of bullcrap and I'm crazy, I think that, let's imagine it was real, and then be honest. If those experiences were real, do you think that you would deserve to have those experiences? Or do you think that they would be like, fuck that dude? Like the suburban delusion losers that go on a camping trip to find Bigfoot. You think Bigfoot would, knowing that, the nature has more empathy than we do, because we've been kind of programmed by institutions and culture and society to not have this natural way. So they see us better than we see them. It's proven that if you have a house plant in an apartment in a city and you feed it every day and you go to work, it gets sad. It emits a different frequency that they say is sadness, because when you get within 10 miles of that house plant that's not connected to the ground, not connected to any other plants with the root system, when you get within 10 miles, it electrifies. It knows you're coming home and it gets excited like a dog or a cat does. You might think I'm crazy, but be honest with yourself. If I'm telling the truth, do you think you would deserve to have those experiences with this mindset about it? Or would you think that they've cut you off from that because they're like, fuck that dude? I did a life path reading where a guy was demanding to prove me wrong, that I'm crazy. And I literally saw his 2 dead cats, and I guessed I was just going through whatever names came to me first, and it was his 2 co-workers' names, and I saw his 2 dead cats. And then Spirit was saying, tell him, fuck you. It proved it's real. It didn't do his life path for him, what he asked for, because he was demanding it. But it gave him undisputable proof that it's real and that he didn't deserve it. You think I'm crazy because these things are saying, fuck you. Why would we, do this for you? They do it for me because they think I'm chill. Or I've just been out here long enough, they were like, why not? I've literally asked, are you up there? Right to left for yes, left to right for no. And then a UFO shines a light, slowly moves right to left above my head and disappears. I've gone out and be like, are you guys still up there? And then 2 UFOs went out, and then they slowly fly above where my campsite and then disappear. The last time I hung out with my dead friend, who I call my little brother, he was addicted to crack at 20 years old. I took him, I said, I'm going to buy you cigarettes. Instead, I took him 45 minutes up a mountain. He doesn't know. He's mad. He's kicking the back of my chair. He's in the back seat, fucking farting and ripping all my shit up, mad because he's going through withdrawals from crack. He sees me, and I've never told him any of this stuff before. He doesn't know that I've had these experiences because I had been gone for 2 years already. He sees me get out of the car, go out to the railing on this 100-mile view in Hogback Mountain. He sees me look up and go, should I take him to my favorite spot? And then he sees a massive shooting star. Slowly. Wow. And then he sees me, okay. And then I get back in the car and sees me driving 45 minutes deeper into the mountains after he saw me get that shooting star. I think I'm safe to block that guy. Let's see his channel activity. I'm assuming that you're 8 years old. Oh, he's in every live. He's in here a lot. He's been here. Would you eat a turd sandwich for $1 million? Yeah. I would eat a turd sandwich for $1 million. I don't think they're the only people that wouldn't are people that have over $500K in their bank account. If you have below $500K, you're eating a turd sandwich for $1 million. I'd absolutely eat a turd sandwich for $1 million. Marmaduke, are you Indian? That was a funny. JD Vance has a Indian wife, and JD Vance publicly told Nick Fuentes to eat shit, and Nick Fuentes said, "He invited me to a traditional Indian dinner." I feel like shit. Snapple Apple. I've watched all the movies. I've watched so many movies, I went back and watched Jeremiah Johnson. The only thing I haven't seen is 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it seems kind of boring. And I haven't watched Pulp Fiction yet. But I've seen the only piece of Marvel content I haven't consumed is the animated Spider-Man and Agatha All Along. I've seen every other thing on Disney Plus by Marvel. I've watched Hawkeye 3 times. I've watched Thunderbolts 5 times. I've watched every single Marvel movie 3 times. Are you trans? No. And my dick is 8 inches. It was 8.5, but I smoke a lot of cigarettes, and it doesn't fit in a toilet paper roll. And a girl told me once that I'm God's gift to bisexual women, because I love women, but I also understand women, is what I was told. The gayest thing about me is that I don't want to get laid because I think I'm fat. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to put myself out there because I can grab a handful of my fat. So I'm like, I don't want them to see me naked until I have abs again. If you don't like it, stop fucking watching. I don't want you to watch my content anyway. Oh shit, I had a handful of pads. Do I have how many more? I thought I ran out. I had a bunch of these pads in here. I run through one of these in about 10 minutes. Because I sand the side of it's log siding. So I sand the side, and then I sand the top, and then I sand the middle, and then I move and I sand more. I can clean about like a 10-foot by 8-foot space in an hour sanding. I'm starting to get mad at the client, so I don't work as much. Like I did 5 hours today. But I was pulling 12-hour shifts before. But now in my mind, I'm like, I don't think she fucking deserves it. And everyone else would charge $180 an hour for that job, is what I was told, because it covers insurance and materials. And I don't have insurance, but I'm covering materials now. I guess I'm the guy's employee, even though he's paying me cash, but he's not here. So it could be demons that are making me mad, saying like, you should get paid $25 an hour at least. You're missing out on $150 a day. But at the end of the day, I'm like, on my day off, I fucking just argued with people on Facebook and did nothing. So, you know, it is 20 an hour, but it beats what I would be doing otherwise. So, who am I to complain? So, even though I feel like I'm being disrespected, and I know that they know that they're paying me a lot less than anybody else would charge, and they're kind of happy about it, and they think that they're getting one over on me, so I feel really disrespected. I only go once I can let it go, and that they're not affecting me, I go, and then when they do the bullshit, the boss doesn't do the bullshit, but the client does. When the client does her bullshit, I just, okay. Like, she has rotting deck boards that when you walk on it, it breaks, and it's a 10-foot drop. So I went, is it safe to put a ladder on this? And she goes, you have to! That's literally what she went. She went, you have to! Just like that. In front of everybody. She went, you have to! And I went, okay. And then I walked away and I didn't do it. I don't have to do shit, bitch. Charge somebody, the next person you ask to come do it will charge you $45 an hour. So what the contractors told me, they said charge $35 or fucking walk. No way. I would charge. The guys told me they would charge $180 for that, and then they would pay me $45 to do that if it was an official employment thing out here with a $2 million property with a 6-car garage and two floors and an attic, and I'm doing the whole thing. So instead, I'm not using the ladder. I'm not going up to 12 feet and doing 12 feet. I'm doing everything that I can reach, so 7 feet. And then the rest he can do with his son on the lift, or I'll do it with him on the lift. So once I'm done with everything that I can do, I'll wait till he comes back, and then I'll work with him. So I'm still helping him. His mom pays me to watch these and report back. You're saying you're gonna make nothing? No, that every single, like the Amish people would pay me $30 an hour to work on the farm. Amish people are really rich, and there's a lot of them out here. I was told I could make $45 an hour if I went down to Pennsylvania and just walked up to an Amish farm. But I didn't know any of that because people don't, it's word of mouth. So now that I'm in that community, they're telling me that stuff. Before that, I didn't know that that stuff was possible. I thought they were all prejudiced and mean, which they kind of are. But since I've been showing up at the deli with sawdust all over me, people are starting to warm up to me. Why not do it? Because the boss is stressed and people are asking him for $45 an hour. So he got me, who was a schmuck that didn't know that, and was paying me $25 less than what people charge. But the guy's a Christian. He's a recovering crack addict. He donated his time to the Salvation Army. He's got 6 kids from 3 different women. Two of them aren't his own that he's taking care of, and he has a full-time job installing appliances, like hauling washers and dryers. And now that he's got broken ribs, he doesn't know what he's going to do for work. He hasn't said anything to me. He hasn't even answered my texts, but I know for a fact he doesn't know what to do anymore. So he's also a mechanic, but he stopped being a mechanic. So I asked God for a way to help him out, and then the next day I'm driving down the road, and there's a little kid's dirt bike that's pink, and he's got a daughter, and then he's got a younger son, and then there's this nice like the Jeep that kids can sit in. So I got those for him here. I'm gonna give those to him. So I think he's gonna be able to fix that up with his kids now that his ribs are broken. I think that's gonna be pretty cool. I'm gonna text his girlfriend and say, hey, he hasn't answered my text. I want to surprise him because it was his birthday. I got this stuff for your kids. If you want, I can show up, and he can pay me because he already got a check cut, and now he's kind of sitting 3 hours away. He's supposed to be back on Monday, but he's got a bunch of broken ribs. I don't know if he can do it, and they owe me about $1,000. So I was gonna pull up, give him this cool stuff, get the money, and I think God is trying to push him towards being a mechanic again or something else, because now he can't work at that job, his other job. I'd say people come into my life, and how they treat me is how their life goes. I've been saying that for a long time. So I met the guy. He had, the way that he treated me. I think he's a nice guy, but I don't think he realizes how it went. And then I asked God, like, why are they going to be punished for what they're doing to me here? And then I heard a voice say, he's going to lose his race. And then I find out he does demolition derbies. After I heard he's going to lose his race, I thought that meant his race in life. Then I find out he does demolition derbies, and that he's going to one. So I already know it's going to go bad. Then I get a tarot video that day that says that they say his zodiac signs, and they say he's going to experience what he made other people feel. I don't know if it's because he said he did MMA for a long time or what, or whatever, but he got T-boned and broke a bunch of his ribs. So I don't know if I'm even getting paid at this point, because he's not responding. And I've put 40 hours in. Plus materials, and he already owed me some money. So I'm owed about $1,000 right now. But the tarot video last night said, you're about a 33 and you're about to get a big stack of cash. When I was like, I don't know if I should go to work. I'm looking for confirmation. Should I go to work? Should I still do this? And then I saw, you're going to get a big stack of cash. So I'm like, oh. And then it turns out, now they owe me $1,000. Y'all think it's crazy if I'm telling the truth. Be honest. Maybe you don't deserve it. Maybe you don't deserve this type of life. Maybe it was never me and it was your own bullshit. You're spewing at me. I didn't know about the wilderness journey until I got here and started reading the Bible. Every character in the Bible that was worth anything went through what they call a wilderness journey, where they go out in the woods alone and they see how cruel society is, and then they learn from God out in the woods, and then they come back with what they've learned, and they become kings, and they defeat great evils, and they do biblical worthy stuff. I just got done being out in the woods for 7 years. Where I was beaten and abused and kicked around and ostracized and couldn't get any jobs anywhere. And I was like, why? But then at the end of it, I'm a much better person. I wasn't a narcissist when I was 9 before that, but I had learned to survive in places where I would get locked in rooms if I spoke out, and I was only fed shit like bread and lettuce sandwiches, and they would take my family away if I did anything that would make them feel any type of way. So I had to respond to their emotions. And before that, I had a family that if I wanted to ride I lived like 10 miles into the mountains with my mom, and she would just sit there. We wouldn't talk, and she would just stare at the TV all day. Eventually, I got her a Xbox so she could play Minecraft, or she got one for herself after I let her use mine or something. So she would just play Minecraft all day. And if I needed anything from her, like a ride to town or something, I'd have to tell her 2 days in advance. It would take her 2 days of freaking out, and it just yelling at me, guilt tripping me, running around in circles, crying, saying, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home. It would take 48 hours of that before I'd be able to get my needs met. So my mom would always say, you always know how to make me laugh, you're so funny. It's because I had to learn how to fucking stop the abuse. My dad had something similar where if you said anything, it would now be stuck on him, and if enough things got stuck on him, he would explode. So I didn't talk much because I didn't want to trigger them, and I don't think they were even aware of what they were. I don't think they could see themselves. I don't think they can even remember what it was like. And it could have been a lot worse. I'm not saying it was terrible, but I'm saying it was terrible. When I see other families, I'm glad from what I've learned from my family, because it gave me a perspective other people don't have. I had a unique family, but at the end of the day, they were very narcissistic. So I wasn't narcissistic because of that stuff, but I had this sort of self-preservation and knowing that I needed to do everything myself, and I needed to do everything myself. So I worked 3 jobs during high school. I was getting the gym every day. I was dating. I was doing all this stuff. I was throwing events with my friends. I made my own friend group and took them out everywhere. That type of stuff. And eventually, when you're alone and you go through that for years, and life just gets hard, it bottles up, and then you break. So what broke me was antidepressants, and then living in a room full of people that were smoking out of 4-foot bongs, spending $400 a week on weed, and they blow through it in a weekend just sitting there playing video games. The smoke from that, I think, got me with the antidepressants. And then my car broke down. I found out that the girl was pregnant, and then the kid either was aborted or she miscarried. So I lost a kid. I cheated on that girl a lot. Probably 20 times in a year. So she was gone. That night she went to her a cappella concert. She was really talented, beautiful, rode horses, played softball, thick as fuck, hourglass figure, amazing girl. Could recite Kung Pao from memory, where she could just sit there and she would just say the whole movie. And she was funny too. She was really funny. Really smart, Catholic, and I cheated on her all the time. I would get high at the marina and a girl would like me, and then we'd make out or something, and then I would cry high and be like, I want to go home. I want this girl. Don't tell her what happened, please. And then I go back to her, and then she would cry and then force my arm over her to cuddle her, because I didn't realize that I was so like still stuck in that room where they locked me in for weeks at a time, feeding me bread and lettuce. And if I said anything, that would get punished. I was still kind of locked in that, and then I had an abusive relationship as my first love, where she was 4 years older and really attractive, and she would cheat on me all the time, and I thought it was just, and then my mom wouldn't show up to visit me, and she gave me away to DCF, so I would look through the plexiglass window waiting for her to show up, locked in that room, and she'd never show up. She didn't feel like it that day. So that kind of all culminated into not being there for that girl, and then doing that girl really wrong. And then I went to see her after my car broke down, so I lost my pizza delivery job, and I couldn't give those losers rides home after work, so they wouldn't let me couch surf with them anymore. And after I saw her. She was gonna do like this big fuck you to me, the girl. She was after the a cappella concert. She thought I would be at work at the pizza place. So she was gonna bring the guy with her family to the pizza place so I'd have to see them. What ended up happening is that I showed up to her a cappella concert to see her. She thought I didn't care and it was a big fuck you. Like, you missed out on all this. And then I went there to watch her sing. And then her parents were like, he's just this terrible piece of shit, whatever. I ended up accidentally sitting right in front of her parents. And they were like, I knew they were mad or whatever. And then a woman that knew I was young and homeless had got this big thing of food for me. And she was expecting to see me there because my girlfriend was there. So she was expecting to see me there. So when I was there, she brought me this huge thing of food and hugged me. So her parents thinking I'm this big piece of shit. You know, life is complicated. Couch surfing is cool to say mooching. What a fucking loser. Look at this fucking idiot, dude. Oh my god, your whole life and you wound up like that. I was 19 and saving money. Staying at a friend's house. And he was couch surfing. Living with his dad. I was working 3 jobs. I worked at a pizza place, I was a dishwasher for a food truck, and I worked at a deli. And I was also making music every day, and I was sleeping with 5 different girls all the time. Cheating on one girl, which I'm talking about, how bad it was. And I just spilled, there's a fucking hole in my drink, and I just drank it and spilled all over myself. But that's okay, because I didn't want to wear this shirt anyway, because it's getting cold. But yeah, I'd rather be me than you, for real. I don't think there's anybody on earth that would want to be Michael Brogans. Nobody on earth would want to trade their life to be Michael Brogans, even a crackhead. A crackhead would rather be a crackhead living on Skid Row than be Michael Brogans. And you know that, Michael Brogans. You know your life sucks. And that people only love you because you provide for them. And if you manage to get a fat, ugly wife, she fantasizes about men like me. While you're farting in the bed. After a couple brewskis or whatever. But yeah, I was just saying life was complicated, and I wasn't all bad. So they were expecting me to be this terrible person character, and I did terrible things, but at the end of the day, they got to see, you know, God had orchestrated the truth. So what they saw was that I did care, and that I was going through a lot of shit. It wasn't all bad. But what's funny is that she was expecting to show up with that other guy at my job. And what she saw instead was me right in front of the job, smash my car 90 miles an hour into a pole, get out in my, like, I had $1,000 in cash from delivery for weeks that I would just keep in my shirt pocket so I never lost it. I would keep it locked in my shirt. When I hit the car, or when I, you know, it fucking flew out everywhere. And the concert just ended, so the whole town is driving away, all these kids. And she sees me out the window crying and begging, where's she? And saying her name, where is she? And then this other really attractive, beautiful girl and her mom come out and hug me, and then they take me to the hospital. And that's the last time I saw her. Other than one time she drove by me, and I was in a Toyota Avalon with a bed in the back seat everyone could see, and really depressed, and she was in a really expensive, nice red truck because she became a combat medic in the army, and so she had a lot of money, so she bought this nice truck. It was probably her dad's truck, but she had this nice truck, but a life together. She had to put her life together, so she didn't even look at me when she drove by. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair, I deserve that. But one of my goals in life was to get her back. And I couldn't do it. I tried to get gym memberships. I tried to get jobs. I couldn't. But I never gave up. And now I'm here. But she's probably getting married to somebody else at some point, and I bet I'll find later in life that I knew that when I was younger, I had this feeling that I was getting all these great experiences with like dating, and like there's nobody that I've seen on like movies and TV shows and content that I think is more attractive than the people that I was with. I was really blessed, and I think I always felt like that it happened in such a short span of time, like from 17 to 19, that I felt like something was going to happen, and that I was getting this stuff because it was going to be a long time before I got back to that. And then I spent 7 years wandering around, not able to function, and then I would use those memories to keep me warm at night. I would lay down for a long time and just imagine they were still there, and I would just live in the memory that I wasn't able to appreciate then, but now I appreciate it every day. And then the other girl I loved, it turns out she wasn't worth shit. She was just a lying narcissist that loves to, I got kind of what I deserved in a way, because I would cheat on that other girl, and then this girl I dated after that I had liked since I was 15. I couldn't function, so she would just keep me in the car, and she would drive around, and then she would leave me in the car, put her hair up, check her hair in the mirror. She was wearing really nice clothes, and then she'd walk into another guy's house, and she'd come back an hour later, and then just drive me home. And I was like, why is she doing that to me? Why would she not just leave me in the house? Why did she bring me all the way to the guy's house? She brought me to her job, and then she got in another guy's car, and then she drove away, and when she got back, all she said was, oh, it was his birthday. And now she's living with that guy. But he's a super narcissist. He's got like 50 followers on Instagram, and he acts like he's a model. he says he's a model. He's got 50 followers. And the last post I saw from her was her friend talking about how much of a piece of shit the guy is. And she's got a kid. And she had a kid with a guy that has a micro penis. I knew he had a micro penis because I've had other girls tell me that I was hooking up with that he was creeping on them and sent them unsolicited dick pics of his micro penis. That's who she rebounded to after I broke up with her. Was Mr. Micro Penis. So the last time I called her, and I don't know if take it whatever, but I said, she was talking about how she had a kid with that guy, in case I didn't know. And I said, yeah, he's gonna have a micro penis. And she paused for like 10 seconds and didn't say anything, because I knew she was like processing. Oh my god, she never even thought about it, that she had a kid with a really ugly dude with a micro penis. And I'm like, you don't think that your son's gonna be ugly with a micro penis? You cursed that child. And she deserves it. She treated me pretty bad. But I masochistically think I deserve it because I wasn't there for the girl before her. And I cheated on that girl a lot. So I just experienced some terrible shit. I think that people keyed my car and kicked it and did all this stuff to my car because they wanted to put dents in my spirit. I think people are really afraid of me being confident because they know I'm a good person. And that if I was free, I would be probably dating the best looking girls in every town that I went to because I'm funny and I'm smart and, you know, I'm blessed, man. So either the universe had to give me a kick so that I can't function, so that I'm like this, or I think it was just jealousy. That guy with the micro penis would stalk me when I was getting like a bunch of hearts and likes on Facebook from a lot of like the really good looking girls. People would message me blowing my phone up, trying to get me to fight with them. That guy with the micro penis would sit outside my apartment drunk, and he would be yelling at my girlfriend because he thought that they were in love because she would use him as like a diary. So I would, like, when she'd fall asleep, I'd go on her phone and see that she's not doing anything with the guy, but she's like, I know her. Talk about female nature. I know her. This person that she's playing with him is not her. She's acting like she's an 8-year-old girl and this is her diary. This is like the simp. I've heard about simps. This is a simp. And she's treating him like the people like back in like the Andrew Tate era would talk about the simps. I didn't know that happened because I never had that before. This is like a simp thing. That guy would get drunk and sit outside my apartment staring at me. So I decided, after I left my hometown and I had the police brutalities and I went through my first winter homeless and it was just really bad and I was suffering and I was losing myself and I was mad that nobody cared and that I was waking up to how people really were, how indifferent and cruel everybody is and judgmental and narcissistic and all this, that I never had. I was never like that. So when I was realizing that people weren't actually like me and they were all mainly like that, I decided to make my Facebook a troll thing. So I was like, if people like consistently, every time I get a win or am good in life, people are coming to hurt me, they're coming to like slander me online, they're coming to ruin my reputation, everybody's gossiping about me, it's like high school mean girl bullshit. I decided, since I'm already away from my hometown, I don't think I'm ever coming back to my hometown. I hate everyone in my hometown, but I wanted this last hurrah to see if they cared. Because when I was 14 and DCF took me and I was gone, nobody reached out to me. When I had the suicide attempt and I had a brain injury or whatever you call it, where I wasn't functioning, nobody cared. Even my best friends never showed up and they left me alone to just sit trying to figure out how to walk and talk and move again. I wanted to give him this last chance to see if I cared, and I also wanted to ruin my reputation so that people stopped trying to come for me all the time. Like every time I posted and hot girls would like my stuff, all of a sudden I have all this drama where kids are threatening to shoot me with a .22 and saying they're going to find me on a back road, people showing up at my apartment, all this stuff. Just jealous losers that try to down me to make themselves feel better all the time. Everything I do, it's just these incel losers that try to say this bullshit to make other people see me a type of way because they're insecure. So I was like, fuck it, I'll ruin my own reputation. Like yesterday on Facebook, I said, I just flat out said, I've been talking to UFOs for years and there's a bunch of different aliens. And I just asked them right to left for yes, left to right for no, and I went down a bunch of different stories about what I've experienced. It got like 2,000 people viewed it. One person liked it, and the only people that like my Facebook stuff are people that I've met after I left my hometown. The only people that support me on Facebook and like my posts and everything are people that I met along the journey, that know me for who I was after I left home and was on the adventure. Everyone from my hometown, they watch my story every time I post. They talk really bad about me behind my back until they find something that they can spew some bullshit at me. And then they say something negative. And I've never done anything to any of them. I don't know why they treat me that way. I was dating the hottest girl in town. People were keying baby killer into my locker. They made up this rumor that I killed a baby. They were saying that I beat women and I was a rapist and I was a pedo, all this terrible stuff. and I've never met those people. I would wake up, I would take my meds, I'd do my push-ups, I'd be constantly making songs in my head and daydreaming. I'd take a shower. When we would drive in the car to school, I would predict the next song that would play on the radio. I would go into the spirit, I'd go into the sound box, I would go into spirit and look for what's going to happen next, and then I would get good at predicting what song was going to play next. I would be able to predict the next song that was going to play. When I got to school, I would hit the gym. I mainly just did incline bench with 45s, and then I would go, every time I got done with the set, I would walk out and get the water, because even though it was weird and people were like, that's weird, I liked, after I did the set, walking past everybody to the water and then walking back. I'm a Sagittarius. I like the view. So before I knew anything about that, I liked just the momentum. So I liked how it felt when I would go to the water with my music playing, then I would go back motivated to hit another one. That would be my rest, would be walking like that. Then I'd go to the cafeteria with my foster brother, and we would sit in the very corner on top of this staging thing, so we were above everybody, and I'd have my muffin and my chocolate milk, and he'd have his muffin and chocolate milk, and then I'd go to class. Occasionally, if there was a girl I liked, I would walk into their class, and I would just like make jokes with the teacher, and she'd be like, oh, you're funny, and then I'd go sit on the girl's desk and be like, hi, I'm Casey, what's your name? Oh, that's cool. And I'd just ask her about her life and just have a conversation right in front of everybody, sitting on her desk right in front of everybody. And they'd be like, oh, for lunch every day we sneak out and we go get Chinese food. Do you want to come with us? And she'd be like, what? No. And I'd be, well, if you want to, let me get your Snapchat. Just hit me up. And then I would leave, and then they'd see me having fun. They would be like, they're not having fun, so they want to have fun. So then they come with me, and then I would bring them. I would leave my foster home, and I mainly stayed. It was 3 of us, 2 of my friends that lived in Section 8, and one of them lived in Section 8, and one of them lived in a motel with his family. And we would all, at first it was just me and one of them, my friend, on a twin bed in his room, and his mom would be smoking crack downstairs. And then I would just bring the girls over to his house. Like one time he said he didn't want to leave the bed, so I was like, fuck it. So I slept with a girl, I put her on top of him, and then we hooked up on top of him, and he just sat there on his phone. But yeah, I would hook up with a lot of amazing, beautiful women and go on adventures. Nowhere in that was I beating women, killing babies, doing all the horrible shit they'd say. But then in my personal, like, I didn't really think about other people. I was just having fun. Like, I didn't think about how those people thought about me. But then I'd go to my locker and somebody put baby killer and they cut it in with a knife. And then everybody was saying all this terrible stuff about me. And they still do. To this day. Like, how old do you think Michael Brogans is? Can you imagine what a loser that guy is? This guy that says, the Sagittarius meeting, he's still here. He's still here, bro. He watched this whole thing. Just talking shit. You can predict a song, but not life. Well, I have predicted life. I've told you guys what color the albums and art that will affect the collective consciousness will be. I told you in 2024 that all the albums were going to be deep gray and maroon. I said that 2025 was going to be yellow skies and red, brown, deep brown, and maroon. I said that 2026 was going to be green and red and gray. And then towards the end of 2026, it's going to be bright blue. And you'll find that all the Aquarius placements, or people that look into the future or whatever, are going to have their albums as blue. Because they're predicting the Fire Goat next year, which is going to be Aquarius. So that blue it's going to be Fire Goat, but it's going to be orange. It's going to be, the scenes will be orange, and then it'll be like nature inside the orange, but it's going to be bright blue around it. And then 2028 is going to be purple and orange and gold. 2029 will be gold and black. 2030 is going to be gold and white and black. And then inside, that'll be like bordering and inlays and or just stagnant stuff. And then there will be all the different colors in that around it. And then everything changes in 2030. So I can't really get into what 2033 is going to be. I can't really get into that because I can't see it. After 2030, something cuts off in my mind. But I can tell you that 2027 is going to be blue, and then it's going to be orange and red, and the same fiery colors, the same wood, earthy colors, but it's going to have this strong, bright blue for some reason. And then I said 2026 is going to be red and green. So if you look at the biggest albums, that's what I tell you to do, is look at the biggest movies that are going to come out, look at the biggest albums that are going to come out, and what hits the top of the charts, and you'll find that the same color scheme, because the collective is resonating with the current thematic essence. What's the right word? Essence. No, it's like when you pay attention to something and hold it in reverence. Emphasis. The collective has an emphasis on those types of frequencies for these years, because that's what the world is changed into right now. So 2024 was deep gray and maroon. Noah Khan dropped Forever, which was gray, and then he dropped his Forever Live, his Northern, whatever it's called, Stick Season Live, and it was gray and red. Zach Bryan dropped his album in London, which was gray and red. Jesse Wells dropped his album, which was right in between when I said it was going to be brown and deep gray and red, and it was brown, deep gray, and red. I said that 2025 was going to be yellow, red, specifically yellow skies and red, and then brown, and then he dropped Pilgrim, which is the same colors. Morgan Wallen dropped his album, which was yellow. And then 2026, Zach Bryan dropped his green and red album. Ian McConnell popped off and became globally famous with Bangladesh. SZA started reposting it, all this stuff, and his album is green and red. Doomsday is green and red. But I said it was going to be that deep colors, the seriousness of the Capricorn year. And 2027, it's going to be really high vibration. I said it was going to be a black mountain with really bright blue skies, and then in it will be little scenes of gold and orange. How am I? I'm all right. I've got $365, and they owe me about $1,000. I bought a metal gazebo. I bought a gym membership, and I bought a woodshed. So I'm going to take all the wood out of the big woodshed they have, because the owner can't come here anymore. Nobody's allowed here in the winter. So I'm going to take all the firewood out of the woodshed. I'm going to turn that woodshed into a storage shed. I'm going to put it on PVC pipe and roll it back 10 feet into the woods, so that the gravel base is still on the gravel base, but there's some space before, so it's more inviting. Then I'm going to put I'm going to put a bunch of storage sheds around that main storage shed, so that I can put all the tools and everything in there, and the radial arm saw and the circular saw, and move everything into there. Then I'm going to take the carport and either leave the carport up here, or I'm going to put it on the camper roof, or I'm going to get roof sealer and seal the camper roof. I have this nice metal gazebo I'm going to put, and I'm going to build a frame platform. I'm going to get all the wood off all the nails off the wood, and I'm going to sand it, restain it, get the rotted stuff off the top and the mold off the top of it, and then I'm going to paint it really nice. And then I'm going to put it under this metal gazebo, and then I'm going to put it right over here. Come on. You can't really see it, but there's an outcropping in this field on the mountaintop. I'm going to put that there so that people can come up here and sit. And then I'm going to I think I'm going to go over to the apple orchard at the bottom of the mountain, deep in the back by the forest, and I think I'm going to put just like cement pavers. I'm going to flatten it with a level, put cement pavers, and I'm going to try to get the camper moved down there so that this is open. It's just they're doing too much spell work. They're doing too much to this property. It's ruining it. So I think God actually wants the camper here because me being here is dispelling that. But nobody comes here anyway. Do you have someone you could talk to in your life? About what? Someone I could talk to in my life? I don't have enough money. Once my life is more put together and I'm still hitting the gym and I look better, I'm taking care of myself, and I don't feel sort of compressed and trapped, when I'm more free and happy and going and doing things and living life, then I want to start talking to people. Someone who loves you. Nobody really loves each other. It's fake. You can be trauma bonded in addiction together, and then you sort of need that person, or somebody provides something in your life that you become addicted to, but it's never real love. It's not real. It's more obligation. Like when you're married, your wife never really loves you as a man. It's more about what you're providing for them, and then they end up just wanting somebody else anyway. People that say they love each other or you're loved, they're bullshitting. Nobody is selfless enough to actually love somebody else. Even me, I know that a big portion of the love I have for people is from a lonely, desperate place. Like maybe if I was rich and I was in abundance and I had people at my feet, maybe I wouldn't even think about the people I think I love. But yeah, it's not real. At least the way that people think love isn't real. There is a love that every single living thing on earth has for each other. And that's a state of being where you operate a certain way in that state, where you love everything. That's true. But if you get into this point where you love somebody and you don't love everybody else, that's not love. It's more of a delusion. I think humans naturally love the people that they're around. So if you put 4 people in a room together for a long time, they do eventually love each other. But that's the way all of nature works. If you put any animals in a room together, they love each other, as long as they have food. If they have an abundance of food, they love each other. Like now that foxes and raccoons get their meals from humans, you find that foxes and raccoons are hanging out all the time. On trail cameras, they're picking up that foxes and raccoons are now hanging out and just going through the woods together. So if you eliminate the stuff limiting us, we all love each other. So a rabbit and a snake will love each other, LOL. Yeah, you can have a pet rabbit and a pet snake, and if they grow up together, they don't tend to eat each other or attack each other or fear each other. If you get them both as babies and then you feed them. I think if you stop feeding them, then the natural instinct might take over and the snake might eat the rabbit. It's more nurture than nature. Like dogs and cats. If you leave a dog and a cat in a room and you feed them, they don't hurt each other. If you take the food away, the dog would probably eat the cat. I think love is the same way too. I think people are the same way. I also think that higher intelligent beings are trying to force us into a collaborative frame, because if we're stuck in competition, then we do not deserve the higher realms of thought and the greater love that's available to us. So they're pushing the collective to wear themselves out in competition until they die, and then the seeds of people that think that that's all crazy bullshit grow into the new world, which is why for thousands of years they've been saying the meek will inherit the earth. The people that are stuck in competition and power games wither away and die and go to hell. And the meek who work together in a collaborative frame inherit the earth. The people who compete for resources in a scarce environment cannot reach a collaborative frame because of power games. But the people inside that create an abundant world where everybody works together with the knowledge of how terrible it was. Snakes or reptiles wired differently? No. Everything is conscious in a way that you don't understand. The circumstances that a single snake endures might affect its behavior, but at a base level, all of nature is connected. You can condition a cat to not kill a mouse. Even though it feels like it wants to, it doesn't, because it feels a part of the family. But you could do things that keep that love and that consciousness from the cat, like if you traumatize it at a young age, and then the cat will resort to the base instincts. If when Africans will go kill and eat monkeys, the monkeys might not reach that level of cognition. But in African places where there are an abundance of food, orangutans that are not violent chill with the people, and now they're using stone tools, and they're able to take spears from the Africans and they go spear fishing. Dogs are just like that. If you condition a wolf long enough from a young age, it can learn things. A Belgian Malinois is a wolf. A Vizsla was once a wolf. And those are the two smartest dogs that can open and close doors. I lived in a shelter when I was a kid. I lived on the top floor in the transitional living apartment when I was 17, and or 16, turning 17. And I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, and when the pretty girls from Connecticut would come up here to vacation in their lodge homes on the mountain, I would give the coffee to them for free, and I would fold up an origami rose, and then they would invite me to hang out with them, and then I would walk out of that Dunkin' with my arm around both of the girls, and then we would make out I would make out with both of them, and then they would go up to their home, and then I would go back to the homeless shelter. And then every morning, a Vizsla would open the door to the shelter. It would go all the way up the stairs. It would open the door to my apartment. It would go all the way up the stairs into the attic where I lived, and it would open my door, and then it would come and just sit by the bed and wait for me to wake up. And it had the other dog, Maggie, who was like a mix, couldn't do that. It didn't know how to do that, but it was smart enough to follow Goose. So Goose would lead Maggie up with me, and Maggie would be sitting there with Goose. And then I would take them out every morning, and we would play running around, and all the kids in the shelter would watch me and be like, one day I'm going to be like Casey. Once I'm out of this shelter where I'm locked in a room all day. And then I would play basketball with them. I would take them to the community garden, and we would garden together. I would take them to the basketball court, and we would all play basketball and frisbee, and we would just talk, and I'd talk to them about life and try to give them hope. And everybody wanted to be like Casey, and that was pretty cool, because when I was 14, I wanted to be like Alex. And then Alex did so much acid, and then Alex has never been alone in his life. He had a family of 9 other kids, and then he got right into relationships because he was 6 foot tall and people considered him attractive. He played music, and he was a really good artist. He's probably one of the best artists I've ever heard. I think his music is like highest echelon of creativity. But I think he's a narcissist that has never been alone in his life. So he would always say that he's better than me and all this shit. And then when his girlfriend would break up with him, he would message. The only time he messaged me after DCF took me was 4 years later, when he wanted to use my studio. And then when he wanted a couch to sleep on, he said, I'm just telling you that I broke up with her because I see you as family. Hopefully you can see that. I was like, you're welcome here anytime, because his family had said I wasn't welcome there because I was not playing sports, and they wanted them to play sports. So when they left homeschooling, they didn't want them to be associated with me. They wanted them to be jocks. So I said, you're welcome here anytime. And then he found another friend to live on his couch, so he never hit me up again. But yeah, I think the state humanity is in right now, actual love doesn't really come through, because there's so much other stuff around it, that the love that they're trying to give isn't selfless. And I rarely see actual selfless love that isn't from a state of desperation where they're forcing the selflessness because they feel obligated to. I rarely see actual selflessness. I don't think I ever see actual selflessness that doesn't come with conditions and ultimatums. What was I doing? All the gazebo comes out, build the gazebo, all the trash goes into the car. Take down awning. Rebuild gazebo. Clean out camper. Try to move shelter logic frame, or just drape the awning back over the roof so it's double layered, and then try to screw in onto wood into the frame so that it's held together, and then probably leave it until I can get roof pitch, and then I just seal over everything, wait for a storm, and try to find where it leaks, put a marker so that, because every time I spend a lot of money on mold remover trying to get it out, and then a storm happens, and then the water comes back in, and then the mold is back, and it smells, and then I can't find where it is. And then after all my trash is gone, then I probably just mow everything again, build the storage shed, because somebody threw a temper tantrum and smashed all my shit. Somebody came up here mad about something and smashed all my shit. They didn't steal anything. They just broke all my stuff. So put that all back together. I was gonna spend this probably 1,500 I'll end up getting after the end of this job. I was gonna get a cordless framing nailer for 500, get the title registration and insurance for the car, and then once that's handled, probably do a fundraiser or something where I sell my clothes. I have a lot of clothes designs. Sell a bunch of shirts. Whatever I make from the shirts goes back into more clothes, and then the profits from that go into the car payments. And then I have to fix the windshield, fix the transmission filter, replace the wheel hubs, and then probably try to get the dent out of the back of the car, and then detail the car like matte black or something. I think it'd be cool to have Vanta black. Try to see if it's legal to paint the car Vanta black in this state. And then maybe be a trail guide and learn from people that make a lot of money leading people through Alaska, and go be a horse trail guide in Alaska, or work on a ranch in Montana, or I don't know. Every time I meet people from LA, I don't like them. I wanted to move out to LA and create and be around people that create, and I don't like them. So then I wanted to build something here. I wanted to make a film studio and music studio here, and then when I find people that I like, I invite them for a day. Come up to my sanctuary and let's make a bunch of songs together. Make like Rick Rubin does. That's what I wanted to do. I want a bunch of land. I really would like that place in Waterbury that's $1 million. I could handle the property taxes, but I can't get that million. And then I would build a sanctuary up there for people, so that anyone in my situation can go up there and stay on the far end of the mountain by themselves and can learn from the woods and be out there in a shack. And then I want to get the shack in Randolph. To return to every year with the generations of robins I raised that sing to me and follow me up and are really happy to see me now. And whatever forest spirit is out there that hits me with this golden healing light that makes me cry when I realize how bad it's gotten being out here. When I go back to that forest that I lived in, it's like the trees hug me and I'm revived. I immediately become part of the forest again every time I go there. It's a really special place. And I have music. I wish I could show you. I have tons of music videos I had written down on my computer where I describe this garden in the woods. And what I saw in that garden in the woods, even in 2022, and the TV show I wrote about the kid that runs away from his abusive stepfather and gets lost in the woods and finds this magical place with my character sitting there. The way the kid runs through the woods and finds this abandoned keep with no doors or windows that my older character sits in, me as a 30-year-old. I ran through the woods to get away from the violence at the park and ride when I was out there alone in the mountains and people would come at me. I ran through the woods and I found what I made. That place actually existed and I found it. So I'd really like to have that place too. I'm hoping we finally elect a president that decides property taxes are pointless, and that the American dream is to be able to save up and buy your own land, and then you shouldn't have to pay property tax if you're already paying income tax and insurance and subscription services for everything. So you save up and buy the property, and then you don't have to pay property tax anymore, so that you can actually do stuff with it and live your life. And then when you want to sell it, you just sell it to somebody else who's ambitious for a fair price, and then you move on to somewhere else and you don't have to pay property tax. So then it becomes more possible for people to buy houses, because people change and want to do different things in life. So then ownership becomes responsibility. Instead of ownership, it's responsibility. You're responsible for the land while you technically own it. And then I would just do a small tax after death where the kids inherit the property for a small percentage to the government. So in order to keep it in the family after the person dies, there's a small tax on that. But you don't have to pay property tax while you have it. I think that that's outdated. We gotta figure it out, because I don't want really wealthy people owning all the land and then keeping a foot over us, but I don't want people struggling to make ends meet with I guess I would open a different type of land. So you'd have residential, you'd have vacant, you'd have this, but then you'd also have sanctuary land. And sanctuary land is designated where you have to have at least 3 people that are saving up to buy their own land on your property, where it's not rented. It's more like a like you have to have a certain percentage of your income going towards, it has to go into a separate account, and that it's for your own thing. And you have a list of lands which are like 10 acres. So you would get into the sanctuary program to be able to save up to get a certain plot of land that's available to people. So you don't have to rent. You can live out there like that, but a percentage of your money goes towards acquiring your own land. I haven't figured it all out yet. But the way things are right now is inaffordable for most people. We're not able to do anything. The way that the system is set up in place, we're not able to do anything because people are taking advantage of it. I'm gonna go. Goodbye. Fasting, sunlight, probiotics, ketosis, autophagy, neurogenesis, sunlight, raising your vibration, letting go, losing your mind, coming to your senses. All of the force is connected. The birds fly to each other's nests in the morning and say good morning to each other. The trees are conscious entities that are aware of you hundreds of miles away. House plants that are not connected to anything can know your presence is approaching home 10 miles away. So give up on the way that they want you to live. Stop being such a retarded loser. Accept that you're an insecure retard. And get off my dick. Goodbye.